Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. What's going on? Are you guys ready for pain? Are you ready? 900 pages of horror? Yo, yo. That's what we're here for. We're here for 900. This is 900 pages long. We're gonna be here for 900 pages of just reading. Oh. Hi everybody, welcome. Anybody who's new here, I'm Chesh. Puck is not currently with us right now. He is currently outside. I have the window open, so we'll probably have to take a break and go and get him. I'm going to be speaking a little bit softer today because it is going to be a slog to get through this. I'm not even convinced we're going to get through all 900 pages, but we're going to do our best. One of the problems with stuff like this, and this is from like any political or long-winded bunch of nonsense, is that nobody takes the time to actually read through the whole thing. People will highlight things and give them to you, but they won't actually give you like the entirety, so you're inevitably missing out on context, which can make it very, very difficult for people to argue about things like this effectively because you don't actually know everything that's in it. So I am here to suffer for you, so in the future you'll be able to just speed however long this video is up and get through this a lot faster for yourself so you can listen to this while you're driving or whatever. Are we gonna make it through this? No way. Probably not. We're gonna do our best. We're gonna do our best. We're gonna get as far as we can. So, oh, let's not waste too much time. Thank you for joining me today. I guess let's just get through as much of this as possible. So, for anybody who doesn't know, this is the considered mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. This was leaked, dropped, hacked by furries from the Heritage Foundation, which is a massive Trump backing related support group for morons. We will suffer with you in solidarity. Thank you. Thank you, Max. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you guys for being able to stick with me on this as long as you can. There's probably going to be some stuff in here that is going to like elicit some kind of trigger warnings or be very upsetting. So if you need to walk away, please walk away. Don't feel obligated. It's okay. I'll be fine. I will manage. I appreciate the support. All right, let's jump into this. Page 1 of 920, you can see at the bottom. Project 2025 Presidential Transition Project. And then it's Massachusetts Heritage Foundation. Right. Leadership or mandate. Do we need to read the foreword? I mean, we're going to skip the table of contents. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Acknowledgments. This work mandate for leadership 2025, the conservative promise, is a collective effort of hundreds of volunteers who have banded together in the spirit of advancing positive change for America. I'm going to start with the press X to doubts early. Our work is by no means the comprehensive compendium of conservative politics, nor is our group the exclusive cadre of conservative thinkers. The ideas expressed in this volume are not necessarily shared by all. What unites us is the drive to make our country better. First and foremost, we thank the chapter authors and the contributors who gave freely their time, blah, 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 blah. We're particularly grateful to have the help of dedicated members of the Heritage Foundation's management and policy team. Executive President Derek Morgan, Chief of Staff Wesley Coppersmith, Associate Director for Project 2025 Spencer Sheratin, and Thomas A. Rowe, Institute for Politics. There's a ghost in here. Cupboard ghost. I'm streaming. Go back to the kitchen. Thank you. Oh, I've also got my Tim Pool cosplay on, if you didn't notice. Set up a 181st 100-day points. Yeah. Yeah. Real lying out the gate. Yeah, it didn't take long, eh? Economic Policy Studies Director Paul Ray devoted a significant amount of their valuable time to reviewing and editing the lengthy manuscript and provide expert advice and insight. I did want to specify like who these people, like the names of these people, because I feel like that's a little bit important. But we're not doing the dive on who each of these individuals are. I do have the Heritage Foundation training videos though, and I'm waiting because I believe Crusher wanted to join me, so I'm waiting to see when Crusher is going to be available because he's got like his schedule's a little bit wacky right now, but we're going to be watching those later for fun. Right now we're here for pain. I also feel like if we're going to watch those videos, it's important for us to have this additional context. I also think this context is very important for the show, the political show we do on Mondays, the news show. Sorry, did I say Mondays? Sundays? Saturdays, every other Saturday. Fuck. I'm not okay. I'm already not okay. The job of transforming the work of dozens of authors and hundreds of contributors into a cohesive manuscript fell upon Heritage's formidable team of editors, led by Director of Research Editors Therese Penfather, Senior Editor William T. Poole, oh yeah, Marla Hess, Jessica Lothar, Karina Rowlands, and Kathleen whatever. Without those tireless efforts, you would not be reading these words. Oh, thanks. The talented work of graphic services manager John Fleming, manager of web development and print projects Jay Simmons, director of marketing Elizabeth Fender, senior graphic designer Grace DeSandro, and senior designer Melissa Bluey came together to bring the volume to life. We also thank the dedicated junior staff who provided immeasurable assistance, especially Jordan Embry, Sarah Calvis, and Jonathan Moy. Most important, we are grateful to the leadership, supporters, and the donors of each of the Project 2025 advisory board members, organizations, and those of the Heritage Foundation, whom Project 2025 would not be possible. Thank you, Paul Deans and Stephen Groves. So, I just wanted to get out the acknowledgments. Good morning from BC. Hello. Hi. I hope you're having some nice weather out there. I wanted to like just read out all these people's names because these are the people responsible. Okay, advisory board, blah, 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 blah. Oh, fucking Alabama Policy Institute, Alliance Defending Freedom, American Compass, the American Conservative, America First Legal Foundation, American Accountability Foundation, American Center for Law and Justice, American Cornerstone Institute, American Council and Trustees and Alumni, American Legislative Exchange Council, the American Main Street Initiative, American Moment, American Principles Project, Center for Equal Opportunity, Center for Family and Human Rights, Center for Immigration Studies, Center for Renewing America, Claremont Institute, Coalition of Prosperous America, Competitive Enterprise Institute, Conservative Partnership Institute, Concerned Women for America, Defense of Freedom Institute, Ethics and Public Policy Center, Family Policy Alliance, Family Research Council, First Liberty Institute, Forge Leadership Network, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Foundation for Government Accountability, Freedom Works, the Heritage Foundation, Hillsdale College, Honest Elections Project, Independent Women's Forum, Institute of American Workers, Institute of Energy Research, Institute of Women's Health, for Women's Health, Intercollegiate Studies Institute, James Madison Institute, Keystone Policy, the Leadership Institute, Liberty University, Vic Mignogna. Oh, good. Is anybody surprised? I feel like no. National Association of Scholars, National Center for Public Policy Research, Pacific Research Institute, Patrick Henry College, Personnel Policy Operations, Recovery for America Now Foundation, 1792 Exchange, Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, Texas Public Policy Foundation, Teneo Network, Young America's Foundation. Okay, you know what? That list could have been on one page, but okay, you could have doubled that up, but you know, This stuff scares me because this stuff really scares me because I know how some of our premiers really like copying this shit. Yeah, Nick, you got it. Yeah, I hear you. The Project 2025 Presidential Transition Project, a note on Project 2025. We want you. Oh. No. Oh. The Project 2025 Presidential Transition Project is the conservative movement's unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 noon, January 20th, 2025. Welcome to the mission. By opening this book, you are now part of it. Oh no! Guys, we've been co-opted. Guys, no! Fuck. It was a trap the whole time. Oh, fuck. Guys. We're part of it now. Oh. Indeed, one set of eyes reading these pages will be those of the 47th President of the United States, and we hope every other reader will join in making the incoming administration a success. This is really hard to laugh at already. History teaches that a president's power to implement an agenda is at its apex during the administration's opening days. To execute requires a well-conceived, coordinated, unified plan and a trained and committed cadre, I'm assuming it's cadre, maybe I'm wrong, of personnel to implement it. In recent election cycles, presidential candidates normally begin transition planning in the late spring of election year or even after the party's nomination was secured. That's too late. The federal government's complexity and growth advance at seemingly logarithmic rate every 4 years. For conservatives to have a fighting chance to take on the administrative state and reform our federal government, the work must start now. The entirety of this effort is to support cadre of this effort to support the next conservative president, whoever he or she may be. Yeah. In the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed the president-elect Ronald Reagan, of course Ronald Reagan, guys, we're gonna idolize Clifford the Alpha and Omega Dog newsletters, heathens, sheathens, in-betweethens, and assorted goblin kind, lend me your thumbs. What fuckery is afoot? Oh, we're reading Project 2025. We're on page 13 of 920. Cadre? Cadre sounds right. I don't want Trump to get reelected, but I do want to see a split in terms. Anyway, Ronald Reagan, the inaugural mandate for leadership. This collective work by conservative thought leaders and former government hands, most of whom were not part of Heritage, set out policy prescriptions agency by agency for the incoming president. The book literally put the conservative movement and Reagan on the same page, and the revolution that followed might never have been. Thanks. Thanks for that. Greatly appreciated. Save for this band and committee and volunteer activists, with this volume we have gone back to the future and then some. Don't like that. Oh, hi, sir. No, we're on page 14 of 920. It's not 1980. In 2023, the game has changed. The long march of cultural Marxism. I'm getting it. Somebody say that in the voice of Jordan Peterson. Thank you. Through our institutions has come to pass. Okay. The federal government is a behemoth weaponized against American citizens and conservative values with freedom and liberty under siege as never before. Is there a proper definition for cultural Marxism, by the way? Has anybody like put a definitive like definition on that? Because it seems to just be a boogeyman. The task at hand to reverse this tide and restore our republic to its original moorings is too great for any one conservative policy shop to spearhead. It requires the collective action of our movement. With the quickening approach the quickening! With the quickening approach of January 2025, we have 2 years and one chance to get it right. Project 2025 is more than 50 and growing of the nation's leading conservative organizations joining forces to prepare and seize the day. There's a whole lot of platitudes in here of like quoting famous shit. So like, you know, the Seize the Day from the Dead Poets Society, like pop movies. You know, we're going back to the future. The axiom goes, quote, personnel is policy, and the way we need a new generation of Americans to answer the call and come to serve. This book is functionally an invitation for you, the reader, not you guys. I'm the one reading it, so it's not for you. Don't look at the screen. As long as you're not looking at this part of the screen, you're in the clear. Yeah, the quickening. It's just some weird pop culture movie references. The definition seems to be cultural Marxism equals everything conservatives think is poopy. Yeah, right? That's what it seems like. Anything that isn't literally Handmaid's Tale. Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, and Miss Smith to come together to Washington or support those who can. Our goal is to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. You know, I don't know if this is really good language to be using after the attempted coup of the last time. This is, oh boy. The project is built on 4 pillars. Pillar 1, this volume, implying that there's going to be more volumes, by the way. I want to point that out. We're going to get a part 2. We're going to get we got the Old Testament, which is the Reagan era, and then this is going to be the New Testament for Trump, and this is depressing. I hate everything about this. This volume puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed and where disagreement exists, brackets out these differences for the next president to choose a path. Pillar 2 is a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. These recommendations will then be collated and shared with the president-elect team, greatly streamlining the appointment process. Pillar 3, the Presidential Administration Academy, an online education system taught by experts from our coalition. For the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. For the experienced, we will host in-person seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what is expected of senior leadership. Does this read like a shitty orientation manual for like Walmart to anybody else? This kind of what this fucking... Pillar 4, the playbook. We are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans. Transition plans? You're Sorry. Triggered! Where's my hair? It needs to be blue. Plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "so help me God." Ugh. Just gonna say you have a picture for you to see in the DMs regarding the thing you spoke about. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll take a look. I'll take a look when I take a break. Thank you for the Triggly Puffs. Appropriate. As Americans living at the approach of our nation's 250th birthday, we have been given much. As conservatives, we are as much required to steward this precious heritage for the next generation. On behalf of our coalition partners, we thank you and invite you to come and join us at project2025.org. Paul Dean's Director 2025. Authors. Oh, do you guys want to know the authors? I guess. Yeah, all right, sure. Darren is Deputy Director, Center of Energy and Environment, and Senior Fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, CEI. Before joining CEI, Darren was a Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, where he played a leading role in the launch of the organization's new Energy Environmental Center. For a decade, he led Heritage's food and agricultural policy work. He edited and co-authored Heritage's books Farms and Free Enterprise. He has testified numerous times before Congress, has appeared frequently on media outlets, and has played leadership roles such as organizations such as Federalist Society, American Agricultural Law Association, and the Food and Drug Law Institute, serving one of the Food and Drug Laws Journal's editorial advisory board. Jonathan Berry is managing partner at Boyd and Gray and Associates PLLC. He served as the acting assistant secretary for policy at the U.S. Department of Labor, overseeing all aspects of rulemaking and policy development at the U.S. Department of Justice. He assisted with the development of the regulatory policy with the nominations of the Justice Neil Gorsuch and dozens of other judges. Dozens. He previously served as chief counsel for the Trump transition and earlier clerk for Associate Justice Samuel Alito and Judge Jerry Smith of the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Fifth Circuit. He is a graduate of Yale College and Columbia University Law School. Lindsay M. Burke is director of the Center of Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation. Burke served on Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's Transition Steering Committee and Landing Team for Education. She serves on the Board of Visitors for George Mason University, the Board of Education Freedom Institute, and Advisory Board for Independent Women's Forum Education Freedom Center. Dr. Burke's research has been published in such journals as Social Science Quarterly, Education Research and Evaluation, and Research in Education Administration and Leadership. She holds a Bachelor of Arts from Hollins University and an MA from the University of Virginia and a PhD from George Mason University. David R. Burton is a Senior Fellow in Economic Policy and the Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies at the Heritage Foundation. He focuses on securities, regulation, tax policies, business law, entrepreneurship, administrative law, financial privacy, the U.S. Department of Commerce, corporate welfare, international investment, international information sharing of the U.S. economy, relationships with China, the climate-related financial risk. Previously, Burton was general counsel at the National Small Business Association, a partner in the Argus Group, vice president, finance, and general counsel for the New England Machinery, and manager of the U.S. Chambers of Congress Tax Policy Center. He holds a JD from the University of Maryland School of Law and a BA in economics from the University of Chicago. Adam Kandiyub, a professor of law at Michigan State University, is a scholarly research focused on telecommunications, antitrust, and internet issues. Internet issues? Fuck me, dude. He served as acting assistant secretary of Commerce and deputy associate attorney general at the Justice Department during the Trump administration. He received his BA magna cum laude. Sorry, my mind is in the gutter. I went manga cum. My brain is like anything to get out of this. Oh. Okay. From Yale University and his JD magna cum laude from the University of Pennsylvania Law School. Justin J. Carmarak is a research fellow for the Cybersecurity, Intelligence, and Emerging Technologies, in the Border Security and Immigration Center at the Heritage Foundation. Previously, he served as the intelligence community as chief of staff to the director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe. In Congress, he served as chief of staff to Congressman John Ratcliffe, Texas 04, and Congress Ron DeSantis, Florida 06. Mr. Carmack studied at Truman State University in Missouri and Tel Aviv University in Israel. Brendan Carr has nearly 20 years of private sector and public sector experience in communications and tech policy. He currently serves as a senior Republican on the Federal Communications Commission. Prior to this role, Carr served as the Federal Communications Commission General Counsel. Earlier, he worked as an attorney at Wiley Rain LLP. Previously, he clerked on the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Fourth Circuit. After graduating from Georgetown University, he earned his JD magna cum laude from the Catholic University American Columbus School of Law, where he served as an editor in the Catholic University Law Review. Benjamin S. Carson, S. Senior MD, excuse me, is former, I'm just trying to get through this as fast as possible, is former and chairman of the American Cornerstone Institute and previously served as the 17th Secretary of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Born in Detroit to a single mother with a third-grade education. Dr. Carson was raised to love reading and education. He attended Yale and earned his MD from the University of Michigan Medical School. For nearly 30 years, Dr. Carson has served as director of pediatric neurosurgery at the Johns Hopkins Child Center, where he performed his first separation of twins conjoined to the back of the head. This isn't the guy who was talking to Jordan Peterson, was it? Ken Cusinelli served as acting director of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in 2019, then from November 2019 through the end of the Trump administration as acting deputy secretary for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. During his tenure as acting deputy secretary, Ken also served as the chief regulatory officer for the Department of Homeland Security. He also served the Commonwealth of Virginia's first as state senior and then as Virginia's 46th Attorney General. Robert Dearborn served as a deputy chief of staff for President Donald Trump and was responsible for the day-to-day operations of 5 separate departments in the executive office of the president. He also served as executive director in 2016, President-elect Donald Trump transition team. Before that, Rick served in several roles, including the chief of staff in the office of the then U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions, Republican AL, which I believe R-AL is Alabama, but I could be wrong, for nearly 2 decades. Between his 2 tours in Senator Sessions' office, he was appointed by President George W. Bush as Assistant Secretary for Energy for Congressional Affairs. Earlier in his career, Rick worked at the National Republican Senatorial Committee and the Republican Conference and the Senate Steering Committee. He graduated from the University of Oklahoma with a BA in Public Administration and a minor in Economics. Vernon Quay DeRugi is the George Gibbs Chair in Political Economy and Senior Research Fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University, and a nationally syndicated columnist. Her primary research interests include the U.S. economy and federal budget, taxation, tax compensation, and cronyism. DeRugi is the author of a weekly opinion column in the Creator Syndicate. Writes regular columns for Reason magazine and blogs about economics and national reviews online. The Corner. She received her MA in economics from the Paris Dauphine University and her PhD in economics from the Pantheon Sorbonne University. Donald Devine, a senior scholar at the Fund for America Studies in Washington, D.C. He was President Ronald Reagan's first-term Office of Personnel Management Director of the Washington Post labeled him, quote, Reagan's terrible shift sword of the civil service, end quote, for cutting bureaucracy and reducing spending by billions of dollars. Yeah, sure, that's... Sure. Google translating pronunciation for people's names is usually not helpful. Veronic? Is that how that's supposed to be pronounced? Oh my god. Dr. Ben Carson was amazing and pioneering neurosurgeon, but then apparently no room in his brain for anything else. That's rough, buddy. Okay. He was a professor at the University of Maryland and Bellevue University, and is a columnist and author of 10 books, including his recent The Enduring Tension. Deanna Fershigat Roth, an Oxford education columnist, directs the Center of Energy, Climate, and Environment at the Heritage Foundation, and is adjunct professor of economics at George Washington University. Diana served as Deputy Assistant Research and Technology, Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology at the U.S. Department of Transportation, where she directed the department's $1.2 billion research budget. The Office Positioning, Navigation and Timing, and Spectrum Management, and the University Transportation Center program. Diana worked in senior roles in the White House under President Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and George W. Sr. and Jr., and was the Chief of Staff of Council of the Economic Advisors. To how many? Thomas F. Gilman served as the Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Administration and Chief Financial Officer of the U.S. Department of Commerce in the Trump administration. Currently, he is the Director of ACLJ Action and Chairman of Tornget Metals. Tom is the former CEO of Chrysler Financial and has a 40-plus year career as a senior executive and entrepreneur in the global automotive industry, including roles at Chrysler Corporate, Cerberus Capital Management, Asbury Automotive Group, TD Auto Finance, and Automotive Capital Services. He holds a BS in Finance and Villanova University. Mandy M. Gunasekara? Of Oxford, Mississippi, is a principal at Section 7 Strategies as senior policy analyst at Independent Women's Forum and visiting fellow of the Center of Energy, Climate, and Environment at the Heritage Foundation. During the Trump administration, Mandy served as the chief of staff at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, as well as the principal deputy assistant administrator for the Office of Air and Radiation. She previously served in numerous roles at the U.S. House of Representatives and U.S. Senate, including as Majority Counsel for the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee under Chairman Jim Inhofe. She received her BA from Mississippi College and her JD from the University of Mississippi Law. Jean Hamilton is Vice President and General Counsel of America First Legal Foundation. Jean served as a counselor to the Attorney General at the U.S. Department of Justice, Senior Counsel to the Secretary of Homeland Security, General Counsel of the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, Assistant Chief Counsel at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and as the Attorney Advisor in the Secretary's Honor Program for Attorneys at the Department of Homeland Security. Jean graduated from the University and Lee University School of Law, magna cum laude, and Order of the Coif, and has a BA in International Affairs from the University of Georgia. Jennifer Hazelton has worked as a senior strategic consultant for the Department of Defense in the Industrial Base Policy. Look, we're not even actually at numbers yet. This is fucking Industrial Base Policy, and has held senior positions at USAID, the Export-Import Bank of the United States, and the State Department. She was also Communications Director of the U.S. Congress and worked as an award-winning journalist for CNN and Fox News Channel. Hazelton holds an MA in Business Administration from Emory University and earned a BA in the University of Georgia. Karen Kerrigan is the president and CEO of a small business and an entrepreneurship council. She has helped to strengthen the U.S. Entrepreneurship and global business growth for 28 years. She provided counsel across the globe via training missions focus on entrepreneurial development, effective advocacy, and policy formation and implementation. Karen testifies regularly before Congress and has served numerous federal advisory boards representing the interest of entrepreneurs and small business. Oh, good luck, Command Cyborg. We salute you. Dennis Dean Kirk is an Associate Director for Personnel Policy with the 2025 Presidential Transition Project at the Heritage Foundation. Born and raised in Kansas, he graduated with honors from North Arizona University and Washburn University Law School. Dennis has over 45 years of experience in private law and public federal government counsel services. He served in President George Bush's administration in the U.S. Army's Office of General Counsel and later as Associate General Counsel for Strategic Integration. Yeah, that's right. And Business Transformation, where he was recognized with the Exceptional Civilian and Meritorious Civilian Service Award. The other awards during the Trump administration, Dennis served in senior positions of the Office and Personnel Management, was nominated by President Trump to be chairman of the Merit System Protection Board. Kent Lassman is president and CEO of the Competitive Enterprise Institute, educated at the Catholic University of America and North Carolina State University. He has written on telecommunications, privacy, environmental, antitrust, and consumer protection regulations, as well as trade policy and the design of regulatory systems. Kent's policy, research, and advocacy have taken him to 45 state capitals, more than a dozen countries, and deep into the heart of the federal regulatory state. Bernard L. McNamee, is the energy and regulatory attorney with a major law firm that we're not naming. What? And was formerly a member of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. He is also a Street Distinguished Visiting Professor of Law at the Appalachian School of Law. In addition to serving as a Federal Energy Regulatory Commissioner, McNamee has served in various senior policies and legal positions throughout his career, including the U.S. Department of Energy and for Senator Ted Cruz. The Department of Energy for Senator Ted Cruz. That's not a flex. That's not a flex at all. That's the guy who left Texas to freeze and has regular energy, massive energy outages. What the fuck? Okay. And for Virginia Governor George Allen, what did you guys say? McNamee? Also served 4 attorney generals in 2 states, Virginia and Texas. Christopher Miller. Do you think reading all these names will be worth it? This matters. It's important. It is important. I have a point when we get to the end of the names. Christopher Miller served in several positions during the Trump administration, including as acting U.S. Secretary of Defense, Director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and Combat Terrorism, and Senior Director of Counterterrorism and Transnational Threats at the National Security Council. Before his civilian service in the Department of Defense, Miller was an Army Green Beret in the 5th Special Forces Group with multiple combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, achieving the rank of colonel. Miller earned a BA from George Washington University and an MA from the Naval War College. He also graduated from the College of Naval Command and Staff and the Army War College. Stephen Moore is a conservative economist and author. He is currently a senior economist. I'm going to struggle with that word. At Freedom Works, a distinguished fellow at the Heritage Foundation and Fox News analyst. From 2005 to 2014, Moore served as the senior economist writer for Wall Street Journal editorial page as a member of the journal's editorial board. He still contributes regularly to the journal's editorial page. He is a frequent lecturer to business investment and university audiences around the world on U.S. economics and political outlook in Washington, D.C. Mora Namdar is an attorney and senior fellow at the American Foreign Policy Council. She speaks fluent Farsi and is an expert on U.S. national security, human rights, global communications in the Middle East, and international law. Mora served as senior advisor for critical issues at the United States Department and was appointed by President Donald Trump to perform the duties of the Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs. She also served as Vice President of Legal Compliance and Risk at the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Peter Navarro holds a PhD in economics from Harvard and was one of only 3 senior White House officials to serve with Donald Trump from the 2016 campaign to the end of the president's first term. Flex survived working with Trump for the longest. He was the what I'm gonna forget, Sarah. I'm gonna forget what my point is in reading all these. I'm gonna forget what my initial like thought on the matter was before I get to the end. He was the West Wing's chief China hawk and trade czar, and served as director of the Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy and Defense Production Act Policy Coordinator. His books include The Coming China Wars in 2006, Death of China in 2011, Crouching Tiger in 2015, and his White House memoirs In Trump Time 2021 and Taking Back Trump's America 2022. His top-rated Taking Back Trump's America podcast appears on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. What is this, a fucking ad read? William Perry Pendley. You know what? That's a great name. William Perry Pendley. This is like a book name. Was born in Shanine, Wyoming. He earned a BA and an MA from George Washington University and was U.S. Marine Corps captain and earned his JD from the University Wyoming College of Law. He was an attorney on Capitol Hill, a senior official for President Ronald Reagan, and leader of the Bureau of Land Management for President Donald Trump. For 30 years, he was president of the Mountain State Legal Foundation, where he argued and won cases before the Supreme Court in the United States. He authored 5 books, including Sagebrush Rebel, Reagan's Battle with Environmental Extremists, and Why It Matters Today. Max Primorak, whatever, man, is director of the Douglas and Sarah Allison Center for Foreign Policy Students at the Heritage Foundation. He was acting chief operating officer and assistant to the administrator, Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance at the U.S. Agency for International Development. Do you want to make this more fun for you guys? Take a drink every time I mispronounce a word. Or, like, just fumble my way through. Previously, he was deputy director for Iraq's Reconstruction Program at the United States Department of State and senior advisor in the office of the secretary. Max was educated at Franklin and Marshall College and the University of Chicago. My unfinished journey for 666. Hail Nero, hail Chesh, and hail finally being able to change my handle. Tom Cruise, energy sec guy, might have been good at his job, just ignored. Maybe. But he's part of the Heritage Foundation in Project 2025. I feel contextually, no. Roger Severino is vice president of domestic policy at the Heritage Foundation as director of the Office for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, from 2017 to 2021. He led a team of more than 250 staff enforcing civil rights, consensus and health and information privacy laws. Rogers subsequently found the HHS Accountability Project at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. He holds JD from Harvard Law, an MA in Public Policy from Carnegie Mellon University, and a BA from the University of Southern California. Kieran K. Skinner is president and CEO of the Foundation for America at the and the World. Professor Taube, of International Relations and Politics at Pepperdine University School of Public Policy, W. Glenn Campbell Research Fellow at the Hoover Institution, and a visiting fellow at and senior advisor at the Heritage Foundation. Skinner served as Director of Policy Planning and Senior Advisor at the U.S. Department of State from 2018 to 2019 as a member of the Defense Business Board at the U.S. Department of Defense. In 2020, Skinner holds an MA and a PhD in political science from Harvard University and undergraduate degrees from Spelman College and Sacramento City College. I said Sacramento right the first time. I deserve a drink, and I'm gonna get one as soon as I'm done this tea. Brooks D. Tucker served in the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs and Assistant Secretary for Congressional and Legislative Affairs from 2017 to 2021, and an acting chief of staff from 2021 from 2020 to 2021. He helped to craft the policy framework for President-elect Trump's transition team and served as the senior policy advisor for national security and veterans affairs to Senator Richard Burr from 2010 to 2015. A retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel, Brooks served in Afghanistan and Iraq, North Africa, and Caucasus, and the Western Pacific. Listen, my geography is bad enough as it is. He is a graduate for the University of Maryland Marine Corps Infantry Officer Course and Marine Corps Command and Staff, and holds a certificate in legislative studies from Georgetown University. Sar asked, should I hire you to read my audiobook? Yes. And Clifford, the Alpha and Omega newsletter, says, Chesh, you're forgetting your point by reading all of these names and their accolades is the point. It's filibuster, full of bravado, meant to provide a legitimacy through a false appeal to authority. Oh my god, thank you for knowing what my point was, since I forgot it like 7 names ago. I really actually very much appreciate that you knew. You were like right on exactly what I was doing. Thank you for remembering, because I forgot. I was just relying on myself to probably remember by the end. Hans A. von Spekovsky. That sounds like the name of in like a fucking, I don't know, like a umbrella scientist or something. Ugh. Senior legal fellow at the manager of the Election Law Reform Initiative in the Edwin Meese Center 3 Center for Legal and Judicial Studies at Heritage Foundation. Quick question: they've mentioned like this legal study stuff at the Heritage Foundation. Do you think they teach CRT there? Do you think there's CRT in the Heritage Foundation's legal studies department? Asking for a friend. Cheyenne? I'm sorry, did you just say that Cheyenne is pronounced Cheyenne? Whoops. I wasn't even close. Oh, okay. Alright. He is a former member of President Donald Trump's Advisory Commission on Election Integrity from 2006 to 2007. Von Spakovsky was a commissioner on the Federal Election Commission. He served as career counsel to the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice from 2002 to 2005. Cheyenne? Bro. Help me. Russ Vought is founder and president of the Center for Renewing America, a longtime conservative leader on Capitol Hill. Russ served in President Trump's cabinet as director of the Office of Management and Budget, where he oversaw the implementation of the presidential budget, key policies on deregulation, and a landmark effort to eliminate critical race theory and other radical ideologies in executive agencies. Prior to his White House service, Russ spent nearly 2 decades in the broader conservative movement on Capitol Hill, including as policy director for the House Republican Conference, executive director for the Republican Study Committee, and legislative assistant to the former U.S. Senator Phil Gramm. Russ graduated with a BA from the Wheaton College and served and received a JD from George Washington University Law School. William L. Walton is chairman of the Resolute Protector Foundation and host of the Bill Walton Show. In 2016 and 2017, Mr. Walton served in President-elect Donald Trump's transition team as agency action leader for all of the federal economic agencies. He served as chairman of the board and CEO of Allied Capital Corporation and $6 billion NYSE traded private investment firm from 1997. I'm automatically saying 2000. From 1997 to 2010. He is the immediate past president of the Council for National Policy. His extensive board service includes the Heritage Foundation, American Conservative Union, American Enterprise Institute, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, National Venture Capital Association, and Financial Service Roundtable. Paul Winfrey is Distinguished Fellow in Economic Policy and Public Leadership at the Heritage Foundation. Before rejoining Heritage in 2018, Paul was Deputy Assistant to the President, Deputy Director of Domestic Policy Council, and the Director of Budget Policy at the White House. During the 2016 presidential transition, he led the team responsible for the Office of Management and Budget. He also served as senior staff member for the U.S. Senate Committee on the Budget. Paul served in both the Biden and Trump administrations for 3 terms as the chair of the Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board that oversees the Fulbright program and educational changes sponsored by the Department of State. Editors. I'm just a Bill sitting on Capitol Hill. Insert Billy the Fridge here. Who's saying that critical race theory is eugenics pseudoscience? Get out of here with your nonsense. Paul Dans is director of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project at the Heritage Foundation, organizing policy and personnel recommendations and training for appointees in the next presidential administration. Before joining Heritage, he served in the Trump administration as Chief of Staff at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management and as OPM's White House liaison and as senior advisor at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Paul has extensive experience in high-stakes commercial litigation and worked for several large international law firms in New York City from 1997 to 2012. Before founding his own law firm, he is a graduate of the University of Virginia School of Law and received his graduate from the undergraduate degrees from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Stephen Groves is the Margaret Thatcher Fellow in the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation has a Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom. Follow-up question. Should I write my book? Have you read it and then just add every flub as part of the book? Yes, that sounds wonderful. I didn't say CRT. I said race theory. I mean, okay, but sure, fine. We're not talking about that, though. Okay. The Heritage Festival. Grove served in the Trump administration first as Ambassador Nikki Haley's chief of staff at the U.S. mission to the United Nations. He later joined the White House as assistant special counsel representing the White House in the Mueller investigation. Groves also served as White House deputy press secretary. His prior positions include senior counsel for the U.S. Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations and associate at Boyce, Schiller, and Flexner, LLP. Groves holds an LLM from Georgetown University Law Center, a JD from Ohio Northern University's College of Law, and a BA from Florida State University. Did we do it? Is this just a blank page? Contributors! Oh my god. The contributors listed below generously volunteered their time and effort to assist the authors in the development and writing of this volume's 30 chapters. The policy views and reform proposals herein are not an all-inclusive catalog of conservative ideas for the next president, nor is there unanimity among the contributors or the organizations with which they are affiliated with regard to the recommendations. Mark Albrecht, Chris Anderson, Office of Senator Steve Danis, Jeff Anderson, the American Main Street Initiative, Michael Atten, the Hillsdale College, E.J. Atoni, the Heritage Foundation, Andrew Art Arthur. Fuck you, dude. Center for Immigration Studies, Paul Atkins, Patmuck Global Partners, Julie Axelrod, Center of Immigration Studies, James Bacon, James Bear, Stuart Baker, Steptoe and Johnson, LLP, Eric Baptist, Alliance Defending Freedom, Brent Bennett, Texas Public Policy Foundation, John Berlau, Competitive Enterprise Institute, Russell Berman, Hoover Institution, Sanja Bagat? University of Colorado Boulder, Stephen Billy, Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, Brad Bishop, American Cornerstone Institute, Willis Bixby, WWBX LLC, Josh Blackman, South Texas College of Law, Jim Blue, Defense of Freedom Institute for Policy Studies, Robert Borton's Classical Conversations, Rachel Bovard, Conservative Partnership Institution, Robert Bowes, Matt Bauman, Alliance Defending Freedom, Stephen J. Bradbury, the Heritage Foundation, Preston Bashers, the Heritage Foundation, Jonathan Broniski, Athos, Kyle Brossanen, Heritage Foundation, Patrick T. Brown, Ethics and Public Policy Center, Robert Burkett, ACLJ Action, Michael Burley, American Cornerstone Institute, David R. Burton, the Heritage Foundation, Jonathan Butcher, the Heritage Foundation, Mark Busby, Busby Maritimes Associate LLC, Margaret Bayfield, American Stewards of Liberty, David Bird, Corn Ferry, what the fuck? Why does this look like nothing else in here? Anthony Campo, Center for Renewing America, James J. Carafano, the Heritage Foundation, Frank Carroll, Professional Forest Management, Orrin Cass, American Compass, Brian J. Kavanaugh, American Global Strategy, Spencer Sheraton, the Heritage Foundation, Claire Christensen. I think Puck's trying to get in. Hold on, Puck. I'm almost done the names. American Cornerstone Institute, Victoria Coates, the Heritage Foundation, Ellie Kohanium, Independent Women's Forum, Erza Cohen, Elbridge Colby, Marathon Initiative, Earl Comstock, White and Case LLP, Lisa Cornetti, Center for Family and Human Rights, CFAM, Monica Crowley, the Nixon Seminar, Laura Cunliffe, Independent Women's Forum, Tom Dans, Amber Wave Partners, Sohan Dasgupta, Taft, Settinus and Holster LLP, Sergio de la Pena, Chris de Reuter, National Center of Urban Operations, Corey DeAngelis, American Federation for Children, Caroline DeBerry, Paragon Health Institute, Ariel Turso, Family Research Council, Irv Dennis, American Cornerstone Institute, David Deptula, Mitchell Institution for Aerospace Studies, Donald Devine, the Fund for Americans. I'm falling apart. Chuck DeVore, Texas Public Policy Foundation, C. Wallace DeWitt, Allen and Overy LLP, James D. Payne, the Heritage Foundation, Matthew Dickerson, the Heritage Foundation, Michael Ding, the American First Legal Foundation, David Ditch, the Heritage Foundation, Natalie Dodson, Ethics and Public Policy Center, David Dorey, the Fairness Center, Max Eden, American Enterprise Institute. Oh my fucking god. Okay, I'm starting to not read where they're from, okay? I'm giving up on what they work on, okay? Troy Edgar, Joseph Enlow, Jane L. Enlinger, John Errett, Kristen Esham, Echamer, Robert S. Edel, Will Estarda, John Freary, Baruch Feinbaum, Travis Fisher, George Fishman, Leslie Ford, Aharon Friedman, Bruce Frohen, Joel Fruscian, Finch Fulton. This is the worst. Dana Furchgott Roth, Calais Gabal, Christopher Gach, Alexandra Glazier, Mario Garza, Patty Jane Geller, Andrew Gillen, James S. Gilmore III, James Vance Gin, Alma Golden, Mike Gonzalez, Chadwick R. Gore, David Gortler, Brian Gottenstein, Dan Greenberg, Rob Greenway, Rachel Grizzler, J.D. Gribben, Garrison Grisdale, Joseph Grogan, Andrew, listen, alright, hear me out. If you need names for bad guys in Dungeons and Dragons, here you go. Oh, Jeffrey Gunther, Joe Guy, Joseph Guzman, Amelia Halinkius, Gene Hamilton, Richard Hanania, Simon Hankinson, David Harlow, Derek Harvey, Jason Hayes, Jennifer Hazelton, Lou Heinzer, Eddie Hypel, Troop Hymanway, Nathan Hitchen, Pete Hocastra, Gabriella Hoffman, Tom Hoffman, Chris Horner, Mike Howell, Valerie Huber, Andrew Hughes, Joseph Humier, Christopher Ikevalia, Melaine Israel, Ken Ivory, Roman Janoski, Abby Jones, Emily Cow, Jared M. Kelson, Aaron Caherati, Ali Kilmartin, Julie Kier Cherner, Dan Kish, Kenneth A. Kowalski. I'll get to chat in a minute. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Adam Korzenowski, Kathy Newbell Korveric, Bethany Kozma, Matthew Kozma, Julius Crane, Stanley Kurtz, David LeCurt, maybe, Paul J. Larkin, Kent Lassman, James R. Lawrence III, Paul Lawrence, Nathan Lemire, David Legatz, Mario Lewis, Ben Liberman, John Ligon, these nuts, Evelyn Lim, Mario Loyola, Lola only live once. John J. Malcolm, Joseph Masterman, Earl Matthews, Dan Muller, Drew McCall, Trent McCotter, Micah Meadowcroft, Edwin Meese 3, Jessica Melugan, adding a G. Help me! Jessica, Frank Mermound, Mark Miller, Cleta Mitchell, Kevin E. Molly, Caitlin Moon, David Moore, Claire Morell, Mark Morgan, Hunter Morgan, Rachel Morrison, Jonathan Moy, Ian Murray, Rachel Nabil, Mitchell Nassy, Lucian Niemeyer, Nazak Nikakatar, Milan Mitch Nikolic. What? Milan Mitch Nikolic? That's not real. This is a fake name. No. 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 Nikolic? Like Saint Nicholas, like we made Santa a lich in our D&D game? Are you fucking kidding me? Matt O'Brien, Caleb Orr. You can't Milan Mitch Nikolic and then Matt O'Brien fall like right before Nizak Nekatar. Caleb, you know what? At least you can't say that they're not eclectic. Michael Pack, Leah Pedersen, Michael Pillsbury, Patrick Pizzella, Robert Poole, Kevin This says penis. Extra heart for Chesh and Scritches for Old Silverface. Oh, thank you very much. My Unfinished Journey. I appreciate that. Pam Prior, Thomas Pyle, John Ratcliffe. We made it to R. Paul Ray. How many letters are there in the alphabet again? Joseph Radin. I've forgotten. J.W. Richards. Jordan Richardson. Jason Wine. Sean Riley. Laura Reese, Leo Rios, Mark Robeck, James Rockass, Mark Royce, Reed Rubenstein, William Rudger, Austin Ruse, Brent DeSadler, Alexander William Salter, John Sanders, Carla Sands, Robert Stephanie Saunders, David Swap, Brent D. Schaefer, Nina Osherenko Schaffer, Matt Schuck, Justin Schwab, John Schwepp, Mark Scribner, Derek Schlicknick, Josh Sewell, Kathleen Sagama, Matt Sharp, Judy Shelton, Nathan Symington, Lauren Smith, Zach Smith, Jack Spencer, Ardini Spurrow, Thomas W. Spohair, fuck, Chris Stanley, Peter Saint Ong, Paula M. Stannard, Parker Stathetos, William Steiger, Kenny Stein, Corey Stewart, Mari Stull, Catherine T. Sullivan, Brett Swearinigan, Michael Sweeney, Robert Swap, Aaron Sazabo, Caddy Talento, Tony Tata, Farnaz Farkish Thompson, Todd Thurman, Brent Tolman, Kyla M. Tonneson, Joe Trotter, Tevi Troy, Clayton Tufts, Aaron Valdez, Mark Vanderoff, Jessica M. Vaughn, John J.V. Venable, Morgan Lorraine Vina, Andrew N. Vollmer, Hans A. von they added the people that are in the top into here. Von Spakovsky, Greg Walsher, David M. Walsh, Aaron Walsh, Jacqueline Ward, Emma Waters, Michael Williams, Aaron Wolf, Jonathan Wolfson, Alexei Woltornist, Frank Wuko, Caesar Yabara, John Zadronzi, Laura Zork. Empty page. Forward. We made it. We made it to the forward. Clifford the Alpha. I can't see your whole name when it's like that. That's rude. Clifford Alpha and Omega Dog newsletter for 2 said stop. Enough the sunk cost. Please stop. Just stop, please. All right, we did it. We made it. Time for a drink. It took us like an hour to get the 33 pages. I didn't even have like a long 20-minute hangout at the opening like I normally do. Fuck. So to be clear, these people definitely know what they're talking about. They're definitely all related with each other and have been working together. Most of them were working with Donald Trump prior and with Ronald Reagan prior. Ugh. Give me a minute. Tony Tata is the name of my top 1% ratata. I'm glad somebody's able to find some humor in this. We made it through the desert of despair. That's the names that back this horseshit. Yeah, to be clear, I just want people to understand that there was a large number of people that worked on this, a large number of people that backed these things, and a large number and part of this is like understanding that these are like policymakers. These are people that are in legislation. These are people that own businesses, right? These people have put their name on this. I'm wondering if any of these names you think are fake. Like, you think anybody put a fake name up? St. Ronald Wilson Reagan? Blah, right? Okay, so tinfoil hat time. I think this all goes back to the schemers behind the business. Sorry, the thing's in the way. Let me just do this real quick so I can think. The business plot against FDR not getting punished. Oh, I don't mind a good tinfoil hat. You get to the end and they're like, this is only the first page of alphabetically ordered names, and then there's a dozen more pages. Not sure what these names are. You just woke up and you might need to come back later. Yeah, no worries. Take your time. These are the names of the people who have signed on and helped work on Project 2025, which is like the transitional document for the conservative Trump administration. Puck is outside. Back outside now. I don't know what's going on. He's hanging out. So, if you need names for any TTRPGs you're playing, there you go. Okay. Let's get through the forward. Forward, A Promise to America, Kevin D. Roberts, PhD. 44 years ago, the United States and the conservative movement were in dire straits. Both had been betrayed by the Washington establishment and were uncertain whom to trust. Both were internally splintered and strategically adrift. We're still at that moment of acute vulnerability and division. We found ourselves besieged by existential adversaries, foreign and domestic. The late 1970s were, by any measure, a historic low point for America and the political coalition dedicated to preserving its unique legacy of human flourishing and freedom. Today, America and the conservative movement are enduring an era of division and danger akin to the late 1970s. Now as then, our political class has been discredited by wholesale dishonesty and corruption. Look at America under the ruling and the cultural elite today. Inflation is ravaging family budgets, drug overdose, death continues to escalate, and children suffer the toxic normalization of transgenderism with drag queens and pornography invading their school libraries. Overseas, a totalitarian communist dictatorship in Beijing is engaged in a strategic, cultural, and economic Cold War against America's interests, values, and people, all while globalist elites in Washington awaken only slowly to that growing threat. Moreover, low-income communities are drowning in addiction and government dependence. Contemporary elites have even repurposed the worst ingredients of 1970s radical chic to build the totalitarian cult known today as the Great Awakening. And now and then, the Republican Party seems to have little understanding about what to do. Most alarming of all, the very moral foundations of our society are in peril. Yet students of history will note that notwithstanding all those challenges, the late 1970s proved to be the movement when the political right unified itself and the country and led the United States to historic political, economic, and global victories. The Heritage Foundation is proud to have played a small but pivotal role in that story. It was in early 1979, amidst stagflation, gas lines, and the Red Army's invasion of Afghanistan in the nadir of Jimmy Carter's days of malice. The Heritage launched the Mandate for Leadership project. We brought together hundreds of conservative scholars and academics across the conservative movement. Together, this team created a 20-volume, 3,000-page governing handbook containing more than 2,000 conservative policies to reform and federal government and rescue the American people from Washington dysfunction. It was a promise from the conservative movement to the country, confident, specific, and clear. The Mandate for Leadership was published in January of 1981, the same month Ronald Reagan was sworn into his presidency. By the end of that year, more than 60% of its recommendations had become policy, and Reagan was on his way to ending stagflation, reviving American confidence and prosperity, and winning the Cold War. The bad news today is that our political establishment and cultural elite have once again driven America toward decline. The good news is that we know the way out, even though the challenges today are not what they were in the 1970s. Conservatives should be confident that we can rescue our kids, reclaim our culture, revive our economy, and defeat the anti-American left at home and abroad. We did it before and we will do it again. As Ronald Reagan put it, I don't know how to do a Ronald Reagan voice, so freedom is a fragile thing, and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. This is the duty history has put before us, and the standard by which our generation of conservatives will be judged. And we should not want it any other way. The legacy of the Leadership for Mandate, and indeed the entire Reagan revolution, is that if conservatives want to save the country, we need a bold and courageous plan. This book is the first step to that plan. The Conservative Promise, this volume, The Conservative Promise, is the opening salvo for the 2025 presidential transition project launched by the Heritage Foundation and our many partners in April 2022. Its 30 chapters lay out hundreds of clear and concrete policy recommendations for White House offices, cabinet departments, Congress, and agencies commissioned and boards. Just as important as the scope of the Conservative Promise's recommendations is the breadth of its authorship. This book is the product of more than 400 scholars and policy experts from across the conservative movement and around the country. Contributors include former elected officials, world-renowned economists, and veterans from 4 presidential administrations. This is an agenda prepared by and for conservatives who will be ready on day 1 of the next administration to save our country from the brink of disaster. The Heritage Foundation is once again facilitating this work, but our dozen of partners and hundreds of authors will attest this book is the work of the entire conservative movement. As such, the authors express consensus recommendations already forged, especially along 4 broad fronts that will decide America's future. 1. Restore the evil... Sorry, I was reading the... I'm lost. Restore the evil. 1. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. 2. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. 3. Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. 4. Secure our God-given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution calls the blessing of liberty. What makes this 4 pieces of the conservative promise so valuable to the next president is that they cut through superficial distractions and focus on the moral and foundational challenges America faces in this moment of history. This was one of the secrets of conservative success in the Reagan era, one our generation should emulate. As in the late 1970s, Americans today experience the failures of political and cultural elites in countless ways, in the job market and in grocery store checkout lines, on the streets and in our schools, in the media and within our constitutions, but in truth these daily dysfunctions are not innumerable problems, but innumerable manifestations of a few core crises. Yeah, I'm feline. That was definitely a Freudian slip. In the 1970s, the threat we face were the Soviet Union, the socialism of 1970s liberals, and the predatory deviancy of cultural elites. Reagan defeated these beasts by ignoring their tentacles and striking instead at their hearts. His approach to the Cold War, we win and they lose. His economic agenda, the human dignity of work and its many rewards. His platform, in the cultural wars, the community values embody in these words: family, work, neighborhood, peace, and freedom. This book and Project 2025 as a whole will arm the next conservative president with the same kind of strategic clarity, but for a new age. Promise number 1, restore the family of... Is this still the fucking forward? Are we out? Is this not the forward anymore? Oh, God. Promise number 1, restore the family of the centerpiece of the American life and protect our children. You really want me to keep reading this in that voice? Because I can keep that up. I can keep that up for a while. Conservative get to define the terms. Yeah, that's one of the big problems here, is that they believe that they get to define what family, work, neighborhood, peace, and freedom actually even are. On top of this, the approach to the Cold War of we win and they lose is not a policy. That's a slogan. This isn't an economic agenda either. This isn't how the economy works. This is nonsense. That's not a whatever. Wake up and bake up. That's a good choice. Yeah, probably. That's probably where you want to be. Promise number 1, restore the family and the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. The next conservative president must get to work pursuing a true propriety of politics, the well-being of the American family. In many ways, the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. You see... Did he just call gay people supernatural? Its purpose is to replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. You see, this is the popular left-wing Afroism. Quote, government is simply the name we give to things we choose to do together. But in real life, most things people do together have nothing to do with the government. These are the mediating institutions that serve as the building blocks of any healthy society: marriage, family, work, church, school, volunteering. Oh, I feel like we need to define these things. The name real people give to the things we do it together is community, not government. So they're being pedantic, first off, and two, are saying anybody who doesn't agree with them aren't real people. That's not a great start. Our lives are full of interwoven, overlapping communities, and our individual and collective happiness depends on them. But the most important community in each of our lives and the life of the nation is the family. Okay. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of black children. Do we need to... All right, I'm going to rely on you guys to fact check as we go because I can't do everything. So, get ready for the fact checking. I'm relying on you guys. Because I feel like a fact check of this needs to be in a whole other video. So maybe make notes of... If you guys can do me if we want to get through this in any reasonable amount of time... I think we need you guys to, to track what things need to be. What you guys... Do you want me to write it down? I can write it down and make a sticky board note and put stickies on the wall for each of the things that we need to fact check. Hold on. You know what? I'll be right back. Give me a second. I gotta pee and I gotta make a drink. I know we're in the middle of like this, but we've come across like our first like fact check thing. So give me 1 second. I gotta go get a pencil and get a drink. I'll be back in 1 second. Yeah, we're actually finally getting into this. Okay. Hi. All right. Sorry for the. I needed to go make a drink. I've succeeded. I got a gin and ginger ale, and I finally got like some real ice. Like I got some real ice cube. I got an ice cube tray finally. Yeah, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what you were talking about. You're good. You're good. Ugh. I just got confused because it was so off what we were talking about. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start every time there's something that needs to be fact checked. You posted a link where in here. Oh yeah, look at that. It's a paper, nominal births, an overview from July of 22. Okay, all right. Okay. So here, all right. Here's what we're gonna do. Every time there is something where they just make a statement of fact that like would need to be fact checked, I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna put it on the board. I'm gonna put it right here, where you guys can actually hold on. This is too big. I need a smaller one. This one's too big. Hold up. Fuck. Sorry. Yeah, I'm stuck. There you go. Okay, hold on. These papers are too big. My sticky. I need smaller stickies. Alright, I got smaller stickies. So we're gonna use these stickies, and we're gonna write down anything that is needs to be fact checked, and then we'll start doing that later. So this one is a statement about families in crisis. 40%. This is page 36. Yeah, this one's too small. I need a bigger one. I need to actually be able to read it. Okay, listen. I have you go to the throne link if you want to send me a whiteboard and or if you want to send me crafting shit, you can send it to me through Throne. The link is in the description. There. Okay, this one's a better size. We got proper size too. Oh, red yarn. Listen, if you guys want to send me shit, you can do that through Throne. Okay. So this is page. Oh, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. So this is page 36, right? Yeah, page 36. So this is a quote of 40% of children have unmarried moms, and 70% of black kids. Alright, so, I mean, technically that's 2, but that's okay. There's our first sticky. Alright, we'll keep going. So, anytime you see one, make a note and make sure I write it, at me. Because I'll probably miss some. Okay? Whew. You keep expecting to see pointed ears come out of the hat. That'd be great. I need to make, little goblin ears that come out the sides of the hat. Why are you black? Yeah. Okay, today in America, the America family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 40% of black children. There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of the father. Can we fact check that? Is that something we can put on the board? But why do you care? Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen suicide, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. That's a fact check. Fatherless is a principal source of ellipses? This is still page 36. Oh, God. I feel like writing these down on a sticky note is going to make this take way longer. We're going to fill that up. Oh, this is really good. So many of the problems government programs are designed to solve but can't are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage and the family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married without their married parents. Well, that's just bullshit, right? Like, that's just not true. Like, American style of the nuclear family is a relatively new idea. Like, that there are other places in the world. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. Ugh. Huh? Sorry, one of the guys I live with is messaging me because he's doing something, and I'm like, what? I think he's going to Staples, which would be where I would get a pegboard. Ah, I've got so many messages. What's going on? Hello. Thanks. Hell yeah. Thumbs up. Hell yeah. Hey! Congratulations, sir. Good shit. I like the phone on your wall. Okay. They should take a walk around Europe, right? Oh my fucking god. 40% number is an estimate from 2018. Oh shit, I'm fatherless. I was destined to fail from birth. That's my origin story. I am the MC. Disney princesses had no mom or dad. They all turned out great. Just wait for the call to end no-fault divorce. Yeah, that's where this is going. Okay, the world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free... Like, do we even need to fact-check that beyond other places besides America exist? And that the nuclear family was basically invented in the 50s? Like, did America just not exist before the 1950s? Do I even need to put extra work to fact-check that one? Ugh. The world has never seen the not nuclear family. We're never gonna get out of page 36. I feel like page 36 should just be the notation. I'm not gonna be able to read this later. Boom. Alright. So many of the problems the government program are designed to solve but can't are ultimately the problems created by the crisis of marriage and the family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. If current trends continue, we are headed towards social implosion. Furthermore, the next conservative president must understand that using government alone to respond to symptoms of the family crisis is a dead end. Federal power must instead be wielded to reverse the crisis and rescue America's kids from familial breakdown. What? Okay. The conservative promise includes dozens of specific policies to accomplish these existential threats. Some are obvious and long-standing goals, like eliminating marriage penalties in welfare programs and the tax code, and installing work requirements for food stamps. Oh, good. But that's, huh? Huh? Some are obvious and long-standing goals, like eliminating marriage penalties in federal welfare programs and the tax code, and installing work requirements for food stamps. Why are there no commas in this sentence? There's been like Oxford commas all over this up until now. Some obvious long-standing, like eliminating marriage penalties in federal welfare programs. Marriage penalties in federal welfare programs. So, like, if you're married, you don't get as much money. And the tax code. That's so much. Obvious and long-standing goals like the tax code. Or is he saying eliminating the tax code? Where? I need commas, sir. Where are the commas supposed to be in this sentence? Because it can mean a lot of different things. And installing work requirements for food stamps. That's just a job. That's just having a job. What do you mean? Oh my god. Period, but we must go further. It's time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority, and even use government power, including through the tax code, to restore the American family. So what, are you gonna charge people extra tax if they're gay? Are you gonna give tax cuts if they're in a straight relationship and have 2 children? What would this even look like? Hey, low energy Vince, good to see you. Do you lose your food stamps if you're on unemployment then? I guess? None of this makes any sense. This is you may as well just eliminate food stamps entirely. I mean, okay, here's an idea. What if we took this and put it on its head and said, all right, listen, we're going to eliminate the, what did it say? We're going to install requirements for food stamps. And the requirement you're installing is everybody gets a minimum $100 a month towards food per person in the house. Boom. Installing requirements for food stamps. The requirement is everybody per person in the house gets $100. Done. You're welcome. I fixed it. Right? So now there isn't like work, like, so now the work requirements are living. No? That's not bad, right? $100 per person. $100 per person per month isn't enough money for just food? I don't know, where I live, I can get away with that. Yeah. Well, it's a portion of UBI, right? That's just the grocery portion. I guess, yeah, it will have to be dependent on where you live. I guess you'd have to have like a percentage or whatever. Anyway, but we must go further. It is time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority. Yeah, whatever, that makes no sense. Today, the left is threatening the tax-exempt status of churches and charities that reject woke progressivism. I'm pretty sure they're attacking the tax-exempt status of churches and charities that engage in politics, which is why churches get tax-exempt status in the first place, because they're not supposed to be engaging in fucking politics, dude. They will soon turn to Christian schools and clubs with the same totalitarian intent. Is it not totalitarian for them to not be taxed at all? $100 on food would be tight, very tight, but I could do it if it was just food. Yeah, no, just food. No taxes, right? There's no taxes on your food stamps. You can spend more money if you want. You still get to have your job and do whatever you want, and it's $100 per person living at the house or living in the space. So, like, where I live, there's a dog, me, and 3 dudes. So the dog doesn't count. So 4. So we get $400 for groceries a month for this house. I can make that work. But that doesn't that doesn't include that is just a flat. You can still spend more if you want, right? Anyway, we're getting off track of reading this dumb shit. The next conservative president must make the institution of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. What the fuck? The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. This starts with deleting the term sexual orientation and gender identity, SOGI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitivity, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule, agency, regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. So we're going to remove men. Like, do they understand that father, like they were talking about up here, father is a gender specific term? I'm going to drink this real fast. That's what I call a dog whistle. Yeah, no doubt, right? Pornography manifested today in the omnipresence, propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, for instance, is not a political Gordian knot inextricably binding up desperate claims about freedom of speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. Huh? What? I was about to say who wrote this, but I'm like, no, I spent an hour reading out all the people that fucking wrote this shit. What the fuck? That's not a sentence. Pornography manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sex. Okay, transgender ideology, first off, isn't a thing. Second off, do not tie that together with the sexualization of children, because those things are not related. It is not a political Gordian knot inextricably binding up desperate claims about free speech, property rights. What the fuck do transgender rights and the sexualization of children have to do with property rights, except that a lot of people that are like this conservative family types tend to view their children as property. Sexual liberation and child welfare. What the fuck? The sexualization of children and child welfare are inextricably bound in a Gordian knot. And the legality of that is a political Gordian knot. It's written by ChatGPT. Listen, hear me out. Do you guys think that the government should really have a say, or the government should be really involved in your, like, marriage? Right? Like, whatever your political stance is, do you actually believe that the government should have a say in who you're married to? Like filing taxes together and stuff. That's the political part. Like, well, not the political. That's the government part of marriage, right? And whether or not you have access to your spouse in emergency situations, right? That's the government part. Right? Do you think the government should have a say in who that person you choose is? I don't think so. I don't think the government should have anything to do with that. Right? Like, we want smaller government. We want government not fucking getting in the way. Right? No, the hair. I mean, this is just weird. This is just weird. It has no... What's it at this point? Pornography? It has no claim to First Amendment protection. Oh, okay, hold on. Are they trying to say that... Fuck, this is so fucking stupid. Are they trying to say pornography is not protected by the First Amendment and has nothing to do with property rights and sexual liberation? Is that what they're trying to say? What does the government have to do with sexual liberation, by the way, outside of why is the government getting in the way of people's individual choices? You know, as long as everybody's consenting. This doesn't make any sense. It has no claim on the First Amendment protection. Its purveyors are child predators and misogynistic exploiters of women. Guys, get out the statistics. Get out the statistics for Pornhub, please, of the location and the type of porn they were looking up. We have literal years of data on this. This is going on my chart. This is going on my board. Porn. Porn. And purveyors. Whatever. This is page 37. I feel like this is easily defunct or dealt with by looking at those statistics. Porn is going on the board, boys. Meat is back on the menu. Their product is as addictive as any illicit drug. Well, okay, but not all illicit drugs are addictive necessarily. Like, that's not I don't think that's a necessity. Their product is as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Well, that's just, okay. Addiction is problematic whether it's a drug and can be psychologically destructive. But also, like, what the... Psychologically destructive as any crime? The fuck? What? What? What does that mean? Speeding is a crime. Is speeding psychologically destructive? What about white-collar crime? What about all of the felonies of Donald Trump? Is his psychology based on like an associated felony count number? Because it's like 36, right? So to 36, how much psychological damage are 36 felonies? Is there a measurement for that? Do we have... Where's my citation needed? I know I have that here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Lamau. Oh, speaking of addiction. Oh my god, Vert. Yes, Knox, 100% correct. Speaking of addiction, how about those gambling games that target 4-year-olds? You mean Mr. Beast? I've definitely got addiction tendencies towards Magic the Gathering, and certain friends of mine, do not get me started on Magic. Do not get me started on Magic the Gathering and how it's basically cocaine for nerds. Okay. All right, we're never gonna get through this. The first product is blah 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 blah. Pornography should be outlawed. Weren't they talking about American history and how great America is and how it's built on things? Did they realize that like the American West like didn't succeed without brothels and like women running saloons? Like, okay, the people who produce and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed and registered sex offenders. And telecommunications and technology firms that facilitate its spread should be shuttered. You mean like Twitter? There's a lot of porn on Twitter. There's also a lot of CP on Twitter. So, period and. The grammar was fine. What happened? Ugh. In our schools, the question of parental authority over their children's education is a simple one. Schools serve parents, not the other way around. No! Wrong! Incorrect! Schools serve parents, not the other way around. Schools are not daycare. Schools serve parents, not the other way around. No, they're there for educating children. You fuck. I have a question for you, chat. But the children, think of the children. I have a question for you guys that are listening now and in the future. Anybody watching this at any point in time. How do I word this? Do you... How do I parse this? Do you guys think that schools from their, like, if you were to, like, be reductive, right? Do you believe that schools are for a community? Like, if the school serves anyone, it's the community in like taking care of and educating a community of children, or a community that like, I think parents and children and teachers should be able to work together, but that would involve working together and like for the betterment of the child, right? Like, sounds like Grok. Hey, Godless, good to see you. That is, of course, the best argument for universal school choice, a goal all conservatives and conservatives presidents must pursue, period. But even before we achieve that long-term goal, parents' rights as their children's primary educators, bullshit. Parents are not, in America? Bullshit. Parents don't have time to educate their children. They are not their primary educators. Immediate bullshit. Should be non-negotiable in American schools. If you, okay, all right, hear me out. Let's work with this. We can work with this. This is functional. This is something we can talk about. We can talk about this, and we can probably agree. Not having public schools funded by their district, I think is a good idea because of racism and redlining that happened. Poverty-stricken schools exist and are only and will be poverty-stricken schools forever because of these redlinings that happened. So getting rid of that, I think, is a good idea and enables children of lower class, right, of poorer families to receive an equal education to somebody who lives in a nicer area, right? I think we can agree on that. The children didn't do anything. The children should have access, right? That's equity. That's equity, guys. So if we agree that universal school in that way would have a federal distinguished like educational program, like the educational standards distinguished federally, and then the money of the state comes together and is distributed to the schools equally. So let's call it a state thing, right? So there's a minimum education set by the federal government. There is an education budget that is distributed to states that need more financial assistance for education, and there is the culminative state also giving money to their schools overall, right? We can agree on that. That's kind of what they're saying, right? That's what they mean by universal. Okay. So then it says, even before we achieve that long-term goal, parents' rights as their children's primary educator should be non-negotiable in American schools. If you want parents to be the children's primary educator, then there needs to be a couple of steps that need to take place. One, there needs to be less working hours for parents, because parents cannot spend time with their children if they're working 1 or 2 jobs at 40 hours a week, right? Or more, 40 plus hours a week. Let's call it 60, right? You don't have time, right? So you need to reduce parental working hours. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to give money to people with children so that they only need to work 20 hours a week? That would give, between year X and Y, from the ages of, baby to 18, if you want them to be their primary educator. Then you're also going to need to educate the parents about early childhood development, as well as the curriculum that is required by the federal government, the minimum, right? So that means that you're going to have to teach parents to be educators. So that's free schooling if you're becoming a parent, I guess. You get a free couple college level classes about how to educate early childhood development and parental requirements. Right? Because the conservatives here in this are talking about how freedoms and rights are earned and need to be fought for. So you earn your right to be the child's primary educator by educating yourself on how to do that. Right? Or is that part of the school educating you at the age of 16, 17, and 18 about how to be a teacher, how to communicate in early childhood development? Parenting classes, right? So you have to reduce. There's a lot of things that you would need to do to actually have that be the case, if you want that to be the case. And then what are you going to do for the children who are coming from parents who don't have that? What are you doing for the children who are being abused at home, and how are you going to know? Right? I'm not totally against this concept. It's not a terrible, I think it's a terrible idea to have parents as they are now be the children's primary educator. But if you wanted that to happen, I don't think it's that bad of an idea. I just think that there needs to be a lot of steps and long-term goals to enable society to do parenting better, right? And what that would need to look like. Anyway, I'm looking for places where we can agree, right? I'm looking for places where we can find common ground and kind of talk about what needs to happen. The thing is that they want this but don't want to put in any of the work. They want this, but don't want to put invest any money into social programs that would enable this kind of a thing to happen, right? Welcome back. So what does primary educator mean? What does that even look like? Does primary educator mean that you are now, as a parent, responsible for teaching your kid primary school? Because primary school is K or JK, kindergarten, to grade 6 or grade 8. So are all of the parents capable of teaching math class all the way through up to grade 8, where you start looking at quadratic equations? Which part of like educating is the parent's right or responsibility? Right? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't entirely hate this idea, but by the time they're in kindergarten, or by the time they're in at least like grade 2, they're already they should be reading, they should be writing, they should, you know what I mean? So getting the literacy rate in America across the states in a better place might be a good place to start. Maybe they're jumping the gun here. Like, how are you gonna be the primary educator for your kid if you can't read? And I don't mean to shit on people who are illiterate and who can't read. That's not really your fault, right? You just described their entire platform. We want X, but we don't want to fund it or put programs in place to do so. States, cities, and countries, school boards, union bosses, principals, and teachers who disagree should be immediately cut off from federal funds? So you just want to strong-arm people? You don't actually want to, like, discuss and debate and actually put forward a proper policy? You just want to make demands and expect everybody to do it for you, and the government... So you're asking for a government handout. And the government to strong-arm, and for the government to what's the word? Imprison your political opponents? You want to destroy everybody else's free speech, basically. You want to remove everybody gets the First Amendment but us. The noxious tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be excised from curricula, even in every public school in the country. Okay, critical race theory isn't taught in general public school. Critical race theory is something that is taught and discussed in law at the university level, despite what Fox News would have you believe. Smut is older than civilization. True. Fascism intensifies. Yes. I mean, Knox, I think these people are kind of in agreement with you. They want to abolish the government as it is. And then put in a dictator. Install a monarchy. Gender ideology. Grad school. Thank you, Rose. Thank you. These theories poison our children, who are being taught, on the one hand, to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity, and even their moral status. Moral status? What? Moral status? They want a theocracy. A theocracy via dictatorship. Moral status. Guys, how do you measure one's moral status? What does that even mean? I want to see if there's like a... The grounds of moral status. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. An entity has moral status if and only if it matters to some degree from the moral viewpoint for its own sake. More specifically, one's moral status consists in there being certain moral reasons or requirements for one's own sake for how one is to be treated. For instance, an animal may be said to have a moral status if there is at least some moral reason to avoid its suffering on account of this animal itself and regardless of the consequences for other beings. This moral status is just this is just some bullshit buzzword that they're using. That's not what moral status is. Oh, moralometer. Oh my fucking god. Everyone has the right to learn things. Having an unfortunate starting line in life should not be the limitation to which you are allowed to learn, in my opinion. I agree. I 100% agree with that. My moral status is gray. How do we measure one's moral status? Ask Steve. My moral status is listed by the alignment chart in Dungeons and Dragons. People like this want people to put their moral status on their shirts. What's your moral? Ask me about my moral status. That sounds like a shirt. Moral status. Moral status. Yeah, we are not getting through all of this in one day, for sure. We've already been live for 2 hours. And we're going to get to the end of the foreword, and then we'll do more tomorrow. I think that's what's going to happen. What is this? Page 37? We're still on page 37. Ever since I started writing things down and getting into this, we've, like... Good lord. That's just not what that means. They're using it as a buzzword or a dog whistle to be like, oh, black people are better than white people because white people did bad things to black people historically. Like, that's what they're saying, right? Moral status is a dog whistle for something that turns into dehumanizing purity spiral. Yes! Yes, that thing. I haven't turned on this, and I should have had it on. I didn't open it because I suck. It should be here. Hold on. Let me turn this on. I'm gonna have to change the name of this stream to part 1 now. Moral status equals social credit store, digital, and equals digital ID. Yikes. Yuck. I hate that. Oh, God. All right. Where were we? These theories poison our children who are taught, on the one hand, to affirm that color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity. No. And even their moral status, while on the other, they are taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human and consists in accepting the givenness of our nature as men or women. What? What? I'm sorry, I need to can somebody translate that for me? I don't know what that means. I legitimately don't know what this is supposed to mean. They are taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human and consists in accepting the givenness of our nature as men or women. These people are completely internet-brained. They've been targeted and fed extreme stories that they accept at face value, like the litter box story. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm doing my best to try to translate this into, like, the most charitable interpretation I can think of to, like, their position. Not charitable as in they're not being assholes, but charitable as in I'm legitimately trying to make this into something, like, a functional sentence. And it sounds to me that they're saying they're being taught creatureliness, that they're being taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres to being human. You mean that gender isn't binary? Is that what they're saying? Because I feel like these are also the same types of people that are like, evolution's fake. Taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human and consists in accepting their givenness. Maybe it is evolution denial. Maybe this is like the creatureliness is like the specialness of humanity, that like to be a human, because being human is special, and you have to acknowledge that men and women are different. New paragraph. Allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. That's fucking not happening, so good. It must keep doing the thing you're not doing. Thanks. For public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sects, and religions is a violation of the Constitution and civil rights law and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. Not women. We are not equal here. Yeah, good point, Rose. Good point. But for public institutions to use the taxpayer dollars to declare the superior... Where is that happening? I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, I'm not being paid taxpayer dollars, especially not American taxpayer dollars, to say that MAGA are inferior to, like in the brain. Look at this! What scientific evidence that MAGA is brain dead. They want to remove gender equality, but they want equality. No, they want to remove gender studies entirely and want to... but they still want... They want gender ideology taught, but they only want men and women gender ideologies taught. So, like, they're like, oh, we're gonna put in, for example, just off the top of my head, we're gonna instill a what's the word I'm looking for? The outfit that you have to wear. It's the word I'm looking for. Fuck. Brain. I'm the inferior brain now. Shit. What's the word I'm looking for? It is a little bit eugenics talk, but we'll get there, I'm sure. Uniform, thank you. I was so good. Uniform, yes. And so, like, for example, they want to instill a uniform, but they'd be like, only girls wear skirts and only boys wear pants, right? That kind of thing. I'm pulling this off the top of my head like it doesn't... You started the whole... Every threat to family stability must be confronted. You mean, like, poverty wages? I would say that's a pretty big threat to family stability. You mean, like, parents abusing their children because they're gay? I would say that's a threat. No? No? Is that just me? Something like... No? This resolve should color... You spelled color wrong. Each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. So they're saying that these things like family that they said weren't government and shouldn't be politicized up here, wherever they said that, is also like supposedly supposed to be their like their main part for all of their policies. Was that just me? Did anybody else catch that? they said at the beginning, right? They said at the beginning that they wanted things that weren't supposed to be part of government to not be part of government. That the left is making part of the government. But now they're saying that in fact those things that they listed earlier should be part of all of the policies. Consider our approach to big tech. The worst of these companies prey on children. Like drug dealers. What? To get them addicted to their mobile apps. Okay, sure. Yeah, all right. I'll agree. Let's just agree on that one. Many Silicon Valley executives famously don't let their own kids have smartphones. They nevertheless make billions of dollars addicting other people's children to theirs. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms are specifically designed to create the digital dependence that fuels mental illness and anxiety to fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings. I don't think it's to do that, but it does do that, I guess. You're going to talk to Elon, who's apparently trying to get into office now? Federal policy cannot allow this industrial-scale child abuse to continue. Well, okay, but there are federal policies, right? Like, the FCC exists, and the FCC is supposed... Like, if you... All right, let's agree. All right? Yeah, there is a... The reason I'm not writing this one down is that there is a citation. They did put a citation 2, so I'm not going to write that one down for now, because they do seem to have a citation, allegedly. But... Let's agree on this, like, at least on the overarching that big tech companies take advantage of children, right? And big it's not just tech companies, but let's say, like, you're Mr. Beast, right? And YouTube, right? So do we call it YouTube or do we call it Mr. Beast? Well, he's got his own companies, so but they're all really tied in together, so but this is something that it is the FCC's job to oversee. But what's happened to the FCC? They've been defunded. They've had additional restrictions put on them by conservative government. So what you're asking for, which is more government oversight over technology, it means you have to facilitate that by spending money and putting forward policies and giving more power to the FCC, whether that be administrative power, whether that be legal power, whether that be monetary power, whether that be like even just physical manpower of how many employees that they have. So you're talking about funding more government, more arms of the government. I mean, is it reasonable for the FCC to cover all of these things, or should there be branches within the FCC to be like, okay, this FCC unit is dealing with text-based social media, this is dealing with visual-based social media, this one over here is dealing with Google. You know what I mean? Think of the children using Checkno's Duolingo. So there are federal policies in place. They're just not being funded, and they're not being taken seriously. Because, finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-life win in a generation, overturning Roe v. Wade. Here we go. A decision that for 5 decades made a mockery of our Constitution. Well, it didn't get overturned because of the Constitution, first off. So it got around that, and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives in the state and in Washington including in the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support, while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously comply with the statutory ban on the federal funding of abortion. So, Oh, it said pro-family. Did I misread that? My apologies. Sorry, pro-family win. Thank you. Okay. So, as much as this is very much written for the upcoming Trump presidency, that's definitely going to happen, you'll notice that they're writing this in a way that even if Trump doesn't win, they want the next conservative president to comply with this. So this is not something that's gonna go away if Trump doesn't win. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro-life and pro-family policies, while recognizing the many women who find themselves in immense difficulty and often tragic situations, and the heroism of every choice to become a mother. You're removing the choice, though. It's not a choice to be a mother anymore. It either happens to you or it doesn't. I would like to point out that to the travesty that is Decree 770, which was the Romanian. Oh, sorry, hold on. Let me put this on the screen for you guys. Feline said, I would like to point out the travesty that is Decree 770, which was the Romanian abortion ban, outlawing abortion entirely, as was done with Decree 770 in Romania, was devastating to their society. Yeah. Yes. Bigger government to control what they don't want us to do /see/be/think. Yes, Rose, absolutely, 100%. Alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. I mean, I'm down to give more funding to orphanages and social programs, but these people are not doing that. They're like, adoption is not an alternative to abortion. Adoption is an alternative to, like, I have a child I don't want in my hands. Or a child I can't take care of in my hands. Or a child I'm abusing in my hands. It's not an alternative to abortion. That's not... No! That's not what that is. In summary, the next president has a moral responsibility to lead the nation in restoring a culture of life in America again. Restoring a culture of life. America has a culture. You have some of the most obnoxious culture, I might add, by being, like, Hollywood needs to stop being so obnoxious. And, like, disgustingly huge. Oh god, point 2. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. You just made a giant argument for why you want the federal and state government to spend more money on children and education. And now you're like, dismantle it. Of course, the surest way to put the federal government back to work for the American people is to reduce its size and scope back to something resembling the original constitutional intent. Conservatives desire a smaller government, not for its own sake, but for the sake of human flourishing. But the Washington establishment doesn't want a constitutionally limited government because it means they lose power and are held more accountable by the people who put them in power. The Washington establishment. Whatever the fuck that is. The Illuminati. Like restoring popular sovereignty, the task of reattaching the federal government's constitutional and democratic tethers calls to mind Ronald Reagan's observation that, quote, there are no easy answers, but there are simple answers. In the case of making the federal government smaller and more effective and accountable, the simple answer is the Constitution itself. The surest proof of this is how strenuously and creatively generations of progress made, and many Republicans insiders have worked to cut themselves free from the structures of the 1789 Constitution and subsequent amendments. Isn't guns an amendment? What the fuck? House Republicans are threatening to shut down the government right before Election Day. Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking... Is it really... Are they... How many times did the government shut down during the Trump administration again? It was like a few, right? Have a good night, feline. It's the they. Oh. Consider the federal budget. Under current law, Congress is required to pass a budget and 12 issue specific spending bills comporting with it every single year. The last time Congress did so was in 1996. Congress no longer meaningfully budgets, authorizes, or categorizes spending. You know what? At least we got into numbers. Not Congress budgeting. $1996. This is page 38. Oh god, we've only made it one page. This is terrible. That wall's gonna keep getting bigger. Instead of party leaders negotiating one multi-trillion-dollar spending bill several thousand pages long and then vote on it before anyone literally has a chance to read it, debate time is restricted, amendments are prohibited, and all of this is backed up against a midnight deadline when the previous omnibus spending bill will run out and the federal government shuts down. And why? Why is that a thing that happens? What led up to this situation? And because understanding where a problem came from generally has a lot to do with fixing said problem. The process is not designed to empower 330 million American citizens and their elected representatives, but rather to empower the party elites secretly negotiating without any public scrutiny or oversight. In the end, congressional leaders' behavior and incentives... Wouldn't making less people involved make it easier to keep secrets? And incentives are no different from those of global elites insulating policy decisions over the climate, trade, public health, you name it. Bitch, the Paris Accords were public. If you want to know what's happening in Canada's, House of Representatives, our version of your politics, you can watch it. It's on C-SPAN. It's on YouTube. If you really want to see what's going on in the Canadian government and what they're discussing, you can just go look. If you want to know what went on with the Paris Accords, you could go look and you can read it. You want to know a good example of a leaders on the global stage making deals behind closed doors? Trump and Putin, when he went and visited before Russia was kicked out of the G8, which then became the G7. They went and had a closed door meeting with nobody from America in that room or listening in on what was going on in that room. It was completely private for Americans and everybody else, and maybe some of Russia, who knows. So if you want an example of what you're talking about, that's your guy doing that shit. Here's the other thing, too. If you want more public oversight, the public needs to have time to be able to oversee it. Right? And you're not allowed talking about politics at family dinner, and you're not allowed talking about politics at work, and you're not allowed talking about politics. Who's got the time to educate themselves, let alone discuss and debate amongst themselves when you're working 60 hours a week, taking care of family and being the primary educator of your children? If you want the American people to be able to do this, you need to educate a lot. And they need free time, or they need time that is allocated to political discussion and education. How are you going to do that? How the fuck are you going to oversee something that you don't understand? Athens, yes. Yeah, we do that kind of shit all the time, and it annoys the hell out of my mom, and it's great. It's a good time. From the sovereignty of national electorates, public scrutiny and democratic accountability make life harder for policymakers, so they skirt it. It's not dysfunction, it's corruption. People need time. Public oversight. The Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in nearly a decade, but the same Pentagon wants to audit your home PC. Yeah. Who was it that recently was, so in Canada we have, generally you do like basically a background check if you're going to lead a party, and it's not something that you have to do, but it's something that you generally submit yourself to, particularly if you're running for prime minister. That has to do with like checking your family for foreign interests, so that you get checked and your family gets audited to know if there's any. It doesn't necessarily mean like if you do have some that you don't get the job, like it doesn't work like that, but generally it's like just a general check, right, to be like, does your family have any foreign interest involved that could be a conflict of interest. And Pierre Poilievre, who is the conservative leader of the Canadian Conservative Party, refuses to take it for some reason. He's the only one who hasn't taken it. But that makes perfect sense. I don't get to do my job without security clearance either. Right? Yeah. Oh, your dad just yells at people? That's unfortunate. I've had family like that. And despite its gaudy price tag, the federal budget is not even close to the worst example of this corruption. That distinction belongs to the, quote, administrative state, the dismantling of which must be a top priority for the next conservative president. The term administrative state, why does it have to be a conservative president, by the way? Like, I get that this is written for conservatives, but do you need to specify every time that it's a conservative president that needs to take this priority? 'Cause shouldn't the president care about corruption regardless of what party they're part of? The term administrative state refers to the policy-making work done by the bureaucracies of all the federal government's departments, agencies, and millions of employees. Under Article 1, yeah, because it's really easy to hide conspiracy theories when you have millions of employees. Under Article 1 of the Constitution, quote, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives, end quotes. That is federal law. Federal law is enacted only by elected legislators in both houses of Congress. This exclusive authority was part of the framers' doctrine of separated powers. They not only split the federal government's legislative, executive, and judicial powers into different branches, they also gave each branch checks over the other. Under our Constitution, the legislative branch, Congress, is far and away the most powerful and correspondingly the most accountable to the people. In recent decades, members of the House and Senate discovered that then get rid of the fucking Electoral College. Like, if you want to actually do government reform, the first thing America should be looking at is abolishing the Electoral College. You want, like, your fruit of the earth, the people of the land, to be able to vote and have, like, a direct voice in things like Congress and the House. They not only need to be able to understand it and be educated in how it works and what it does, have a greater understanding of, like, even their own state and people around them, which means they need to be, like, traveled to be able to understand that kind of shit. And you need to abolish the Electoral College. Those are the 3 minimum requirements that you would need to have. Because you can't rely on people to make decisions that they don't understand. That's not fair. That's not fair to put that kind of responsibility on people that you have set up to fail within the education system. That doesn't make sense. Then again, this is the same group of people who looks at a map of America and says, look at all the red. This is fraud. And it's just like, that's empty. There's no people there. What the fuck? I thought this was a government for the people, not for the corn. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Abolishing the Electoral College is on Jill Stein's platform. But Chesh Republicans would never win the presidency if the Electoral College was abolished. Oh, well, they want the people. Go ahead. Yeah, term limits would be another good thing to throw in there. In recent decades, members of the House and the Senate discovered that if they give away that power to the Article 2 branch of the government, they can also deny responsibility for its actions. So today in Washington, most policies is no longer set by Congress at all, but the administrative state. Given the choice between being powerful but vulnerable or irrelevant but famous, most members of Congress have chosen the latter. So members of Congress are just do nothing? Congress does nothing? Then why does the government keep shutting down, guys? What was that budget thing you were complaining about earlier? Given the choice between Congress passes intentionally vague laws that delegate decision-making over a given issue to a federal agency. That agency's bureaucrats, not just unelected but seemingly unfireable, then leap at the chance to fill the vacuum created by Congress's preening cowardice. The federal government is growing larger and less constitutionally accountable, even for the president, every year. Oh, you mean like the fact that you have a president with like 36 felonies? You have an ex-president with 36 felonies that was indicted, what, twice? And he's running again? And you're the ones being like, let's vote for this guy? Brother, you're like, let's drain the swamp, and you're trying to fucking vote in the swamp thing. My brother in Christ, please. A combination of elected and unelected bureaucrats at the Environmental Protection Agency quietly strangles domestic energy production through difficult-to-understand rulemaking processes. Such as... Why is there a semicolon at the end of this? What? This isn't a sub-point of this point. This is just the end of the point. What? So bad. Guys, what is a semicolon? Is this the same kind of like upset that they are about grammar when it comes to pronouns? Bureaucrats at the Department of Homeland Security, following the lead of a feckless administration, which is capitalized, order border and immigration enforcement agencies to help migrants criminally enter our country with impunity. They all have semicolons. Hold on. Page 39. We're gonna need, I feel like all these points are gonna need a citation. All bullet points. I'm just writing this as all bullet points because there's too many. I'm not copying all that down. Bureaucrats at the Department of Education inject racist, anti-American, ahistorical propaganda into American classrooms. Bureaucrats in the Department of Justice force school districts to undermine girls' sports and parents' rights to satisfy transgender extremists. Guys, what is, for 900, Alex, what is a transgender extremist? Woke bureaucrats at the Pentagon force troops to attend training seminars about white privilege, and bureaucrats at the State Department infuse U.S. foreign aid programs with woke extremism about intersectionality and abortion. This one has a reference. Ooh. Ahistorical propaganda is called creationism. Very funny. Unaccountable federal spending is the secret lifeblood of the Great Awakening. That's so fucking cringe. Nearly every power center held by the left is funded or supported one way or another through the bureaucracy by Congress. Yeah, that's how it works. Same with the right. The right, center, and left are funded and supported by the bureaucracy of Congress because that's what Congress is by definition. That's not... Unaccountable federal spending. Shut the fuck up. Colleges and school districts are funded by tax dollars. Period. What? What? What is the... Capital L left. What is this? This doesn't make any... What is this sentence doing here? The administrative state holds 100% of its power at the sufferance of Congress, and its insulation from presidential discipline is an unconstitutional fairy tale spun by the Washington establishment to protect its turf. That's not a... This is not a complete thought. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but we've read a handful of these where there's like one or two sentences kind of strung together, but they're not, this isn't cohesive. And like some of these words feel like they're just tossed in here to make me sound smart. This doesn't make any sense. I'm starting to think that the meme that this was written by ChatGPT is actually true. Conservatives are so afraid of being awake, they want to mandate melatonin given by IV. That's funny. I like that. Members of Congress shield themselves from constitutional accountability, often when the White House allows them to get away with it. You mean like rigging the Supreme Court? And taking bribes? Cultural institutions like public libraries and public health agencies are only as, quote, independent from public accountability as elected officials and voters permit. Kind of. There's a big issue with public health not like being privatized, but I don't think that's what you're trying to get at. Let's be clear, the most egregious regulations promulgated by the current administration from one place, the Oval Office. No, that's not how it works. The president doesn't get that. That's not what presidential power is. Just ask Reagan, who stepped down. Because that bitch didn't want to go to fucking jail. The president cannot hide behind the agencies. As his many executive orders make clear, he is the responsibility for the regulations that threaten American communities, schools, and families. He is the responsibility. I'm leaving. Get me out. So then where was your fucking Donald Trump for 4 years? Fucking jerking off at a golf course? The answer is yes. A conservative president must move swiftly to do away with these vast abuses of presidential power and remove the career and political bureaucrats who fuel it. You want to get rid of career politicians? The conservatives want to get rid of that. Goodbye, Mitch McConnell, I guess. I mean, I agree with that. Property, this is an argument for why you would want to put in, like, term limits. Properly considered, restoring fiscal limits and constitutional accountability to the federal government is a continuation of restoring national sovereignty to the American people. In foreign affairs, global strategy, federal budgeting, and policy making, the same pattern emerges again and again. Ruling elites slash and tear at restrictions and accountability placed on them. Yes. Correct? They centralize power up. That's not. worded correctly. And and away from the American people to supranational treaties and organizations to left-wing experts to cite unseen all or nothing legislation to the unelected career bureaucrats of the administrative state. What? As monolithic as the left's institutional power appears to be in your fantasy, it originates with appropriations from Congress, and you can't say that they have monolithic power and then also celebrate you winning Roe v. Wade. It originates with appropriations from Congress. I thought you said that it is the president. Now it's Congress, then it was Congress, then it's the... Fuck me, dude. And is made complete by a feckless president. A conservative president must look to the legislative branch for decisive action. This keeps waffling. The administrative state is not going anywhere until Congress acts to retrieve its own power from bureaucrats and the White House? This doesn't make any sense. No. This is beyond, like, shitty propaganda writing. This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't follow. This is beyond that. This is not cohesive at all. This is saying that Congress has the power, but they've given up the power to federal bureaucrats, but actually Congress's power is the president, but actually the president needs Congress to take power from the bureaucrats who are actually the White House. What in the fuck? I'm just taking out all the wiggle words, right? Like, I'm just taking out all the, like, the additional fluff that's in here, because this is for people who want to trim fluff and bullshit that doesn't matter, and, like, they're trying... Initially, they said, we want to create something that is direct and clear. There's a lot of just bullshit in here. No middle American with a mediocre, like, junior high education is going to be able to suss through this. It's not going to make any sense. Like, not only does it already not make any sense, it also, like, is, like, egregious in how it doesn't make any sense. They're basically crypto-anarchists. Yeah, I guess. They just grab a bunch of tweets. It almost sounds like... I don't even know. I don't even know. Because, like, there are things in here that are kind of correct. Right? Like, it's kind of correct to say that ruling elites / inherit restrictions and accountability placed upon them. Yeah, that's called lobbying. And that's an issue with money in politics. And then they centralize power to away from the American people. Yeah, correct. And then they to supranational treaties and organizations. What? To left-wing experts. To cite unseen all-or-nothing legislating. That's not what? To cite all-or-nothing legislating? To the unelected career bureaucrats in the administrative state. Like, the sentence structure just falls down into oblivion after the colon. So, like, they state a kind of true concept, and then just... People who claim to be smart read this and didn't notice the problems with it. This is illiterate. That's what this is. This is not... No child even would have written like this. This isn't people. People didn't write this. The editor should be ashamed of themselves, honestly. It should be very embarrassed. Where was I? Period, but in the meantime, there are many executive tools a courageous conservative president can use to handcuff the bureaucracy, push Congress to return to its constitutional responsibilities, restore power over Washington to the American people, bring the run-on commas, restore power over Washington to the American people, bring the administrative state to heel, and in the process defang and defund the woke culture warriors who have infiltrated every last institution in America. The conservative promise lays out how to use many of these tools, including how to fire supposedly unfireable federal bureaucrats. You're the ones who called them unfireable initially. So now they're not unfireable and everything you say before that was just fear-mongering, bloviated bullshit? And you just admitted that? This is insane. This is insanity. I'm reading something. I'm reading from the Book of Cthulhu. Why is there another semicolon? Guys, I was an English major. In high school, I took all of the university level English classes, and I went to university in Toronto for a Bachelor of English. I left after like 2 weeks, but I did go, and I did get in, and it was my major. Those are all true facts. And I also did drop out immediately. There are reasons for that. Maybe we can get to that another time. But, my god. This is like triggered every bone in my body of what I learned through those days. How to shutter wasteful and corrupt bureaus and offices, how to muzzle woke propaganda at every level of government, how to restore... What was that about freedom of speech? How to restore the Canadian people's constitutional authority over the administrative state, and how to save untold taxpayer dollars in the process. Finally, the president can restore public confidence and accountability to our most important government function of all, national defense. Of course. The American people desire a military full of highly skilled servicemen and women who can protect the homeland and our interest overseas. Yeah, all the people starving and suffering and not being able to make ends meet are really concerned about the bloated defense budget. The next conservative president must end the left's social experimentation with the military, restore war fighting as its sole mission, and set defeating the threat of the Chinese Communist Party as its highest priority. Oh, sorry, the American people, my bad. Whatever. My brain is melting at this point. I actually have a playlist, Letty, of the training videos for this that we're gonna watch soon-ish. Soon, TM. Apparently, the Conservative Party wants to go to war with China. That seems to be what they're saying. What kind of war? What that looks like? I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know what that looks like. I don't know what war with China would look like. I guess we're gonna find out. The next conservative president must possess the courage to relentlessly put the interests of the everyday American over the desires of the ruling elite. Their outrage cannot be prevented It must simply be ignored. And it can be. The left derive its power from the institutions they control, period, and those institutions are only powerful to the extent that constitutional officers surrender their own legitimate authority to them. A president who refuses to do so and uses his or her office to reimpose constitutional authority over federal policymaking can begin to correct decades of corruption and remove thousands of bureaucrats from the positions of public trust they have so long abused. Okay, if you want to fire, because I remember talking about this with like Adam Kokesh on the Non Sequitur show like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, however long ago that was. And he is a libertarian, and he was like running for president on libertarian ideas, and he wanted smaller government, right? And one of the things he said is there was a lot of people working for government, and we want to eliminate like he said a number, and I feel like I still have the book that I was taking notes in, like it's still around, and the number was massive. And it's like this: you're gonna eliminate thousands of jobs, right? That's ostensibly what they're talking about, because whether you like it or not, these people work for the government. These bureaucrats and like the people that work under them, who are either, you know, if you want to be derogatory, pencil pushers, but if you want to like talk about like the people who actually make the government function, would all lose their jobs, right? So they're talking about removing thousands of bureaucrats and removing all of these jobs. What are you going to do with all these people that don't have jobs anymore? Like, that's a lot of people out of work. 3, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. The United States belongs to we the people. All government authority derives from the consent of the people, and our nation's success derives from the character of its people. The American people's right to rule ourselves is the obverse of our duty. We cannot outsource to others our obligation to ensure the conditions that allow our families, local communities, churches, and synagogues, and their neighborhoods to thrive. The buck stops with each of us, so each of us must have the freedom to pursue the good for ourselves and those entrusted to our care. To most Americans, this is common sense, period. But in Washington, that's not a fucking... I hate you.
I hate it. I think it's dumb and I hate it. And I think that it's dumb and it's stupid. I think that it's stupid.
Period, but in Washington and other centers or leftist power like the media and the Academy. Who's the Academy? Like the Academy Awards? Like education? Academia? My grade 7 math teacher? The fuck are we talking about? The fuck does that even mean? The Umbrella. Oh, the Umbrella Academy. The Academy. Like the media. The media's already got like a big corruption problem, and mostly its corruption comes from, like, its corruption problem comes from the monopolies that exist, and like how only a handful of people actually own media. And so like things like, you know, what Donald Trump allowed, which was Disney buying Fox, like that kind of media corruption and monopoly. Are they talking about like Bluey? The Academy. Like, they're just like, oh, we hate universities. But look at all of our credentials from universities. This statement of basic civics is branded hate speech. It's not hate speech, it's fucking dumb. You're stupid. I'm getting angry. I'm getting the end of my patience. Progressive elites speak in lofty terms of openness, progress, expertise, corporation, and globalization. Period. But too often, these terms are just rhetorical Trojan horses, Trojan is capitalized, concealing their true intention, stripping we the people of our constitutional authority over our country's future. Stripping we the people of our constitutional authority over our country's future. Okay, got it. So here's the thing. They're saying this about like elites, but if you read through their credentials and who they are and how they're associated, which I did, they are describing themselves that they're the elites. They're the ones talking about that. That's the stuff that they referenced. Not me, not you, the good people currently watching this now or in the future. We aren't the elites, we are the people. And we, the people, think this is fucking stupid. And who wrote this? Elites. The Academy is the Presidential Administration Academy. It's essentially a program that produces goose steppers. Ew, I hate that. Gross. I don't like that. That sounds awful. I don't even like how that sounds. They are the swamp they claim to be draining. Yeah, no reasonable person reads this, understands it, and agrees with it, right? Like, no reasonable person who's actually sat down and read this, because like I can imagine a lot of like MAGA Americans saying that they agree with this, and they haven't read it. They haven't read what this says. This doesn't make any fucking sense. America's corporate and political elites do not believe in the ideals to which our nation is dedicated: self-governance, the rule of law, and ordered liberty. They certainly do not trust the American people, and they disdain the Constitution's restrictions on their ambitions. I mean, I would agree with that. Sure, corporate and political elites tend, like, depending on how you define them, would not be fucking... They would lobby, and then they would accept lobbying, and then you would have overreaching monopolies on media, like Donald Trump allowing the merger of Fox and Disney, or what was that, Warner Brothers and Discovery, for example, thus limiting access to information to an elite few of what they decide the rest of the population sees against their wishes. The Acme movie is a good example. A lot of people wanted to watch and see that movie. And it's like, I know it's like a kind of a memey, jokey example to give, to be like, yeah, but who cares about a movie? It's just an example, an egregious one that was done to spit in your face because they're allowed to do it, let alone, like, the bigger things that it's actually happening in and on when it comes to, you know, things like taxes and things like federal spending and things like whether or not Elon Musk pays taxes. Whether or not Amazon workers have to piss in bottles. You, the people... Did you, the people, agree to piss in bottles as part of your working contract? I don't think so. Instead, they believe in a kind of 21st century Wilsonian order in which the enlightened, highly educated, managerial elite run things rather than the humble, patriotic working family who make up the majority of what the elites contemptuously call flyover country. Why, in what world is it fair to expect somebody who is not educated and does not know about a thing to make a fucking decision about something? It's not fair. It's not fair to burden people like that. You don't ask somebody in Ohio to make a decision about infrastructure and budgeting for road maintenance in New York. Like, that doesn't make any sense. The Smithsonian hubris has spread like a cancer through many of America's largest corporations, its public institutions, and its popular culture. Those who run our so-called American corporations have bent to the will of the woke agenda and care more for their foreign investors and organizations than their American workers and customers. Today, nearly every top-tier U.S. university president or Wall Street hedge fund manager has more in common with a socialist European head of state than with the parents at a high school football game in Waco, Texas. Many elites' entire identity, it seems, is wrapped up in their sense of superiority over those people, but under our Constitution, they are mere equals of the workers who shower after work instead of before. What the fuck? You're sitting around calling them socialists and then saying they hate workers. Socialism is to help people. Not like to and to social but it's huh? What? Where are we? What is happening? This is as it should and must be. What you? Intellectual sophistication and advanced degrees, financial success, and all other markers of elite status have no bearing on a person's knowledge of the one thing most necessary for governance: what it means to live well. What? What? Giving the means of production to the workers means you hate them. Yes, Letty, that's what it means. Oh, that knowledge is available to each of us. It's not to me. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. No matter how humble our backgrounds or how unpretentious our attainments, it is open to us to read in the book of human nature, to which we are all offered the key just by merit of our shared humanity. One of the greatest premises of American political life is that everyone who can read in that book must have a voice in deciding the course and the fate of our republic. Motherfucker, motherfucker, your group is the group that wants to limit voting access. Your group is the group that wants to... Okay. You started this off by listing your fucking education and achievements. No, there wasn't a single fucking person in there in your list of accreditations that was an electrician. You're all a bunch of fucking lawyers. What the fuck are you talking about? Getting strong all lives matter vibes. Yeah, except that did you get anybody from like the walks of life to chime in on this shit? What the fuck? Progressive policymakers and pundits in America either fail to understand this premise or intentionally reject it. They enthusiastically support the supranational organizations like the United Nations and the European Union, which are run and staffed almost entirely by people who share their values and are mostly insulated from the influence of national elections. That's why they are eager for America to sign international treaties on everything from pharmaceutical patents to climate change to the rights of the child, and why those treaties invariably endorse policies that could never pass through U.S. Congress. You mean the humanitarian things that delineate what counts as abuse and, like, Slavery? And, like, human trafficking? Did you ask Andrew Tate about this? Like the progressive Woodrow Wilson a century ago, the woke left today seeks a world bound by global treaties they write in which they exercise dictatorial powers over all nations without being subject to democratic accountability. That's Trump. Trump is the one who wants to say that America should have more power in the UN because it gives more money, which isn't how it works. How much would I have to pay you to read this all as written without taking breaths when commas and periods say and stuff like that? A considerable amount of money. I could do it. Am I allowed to edit it? Because it would be I'd have to do a couple of takes. That's why today's progressive left so cavalierly supports open borders despite the lawless humanitarian crisis their policies created along American southern border. That's not a sentence! They seek to purge the very concept of the national state from the American ethos, no matter how much crime increases or resources drop for schools and hospitals or wages decrease for the working class. These aren't facts. That's not what's happening, though. Open border activism is a classic example of what the German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer called, quote, cheap grace, publicly promoting one's own virtue without risking any personal inconvenience. Indeed, the only direct impact of open borders on pro-open border elites is that the constant flow of illegal immigration suppresses the wages of their housekeepers, landscapers, and busboys. Racism! Cheap grace aptly describes the left's love affair with environmental extremism. Those who suffer the most from policies environmentalism would have us enact are the aged, poor, and vulnerable. What, such as? What policies? Hold on, I gotta find through my notes. Hold on, I gotta write that down. That's a citation needed. Those who suffer from environmental policies are old, poor, vulnerable. Page 43. Writing that one down. We're coming back to that. There we go. No. This is something that we talked about when we were watching Jordan Peterson talk to that other guy. No, that's not how it works. That's opposite. We'll come back to that another time. Yes, please. I'm getting another one of these. It's not a political cause, but a pseudo-religion meant to baptize liberals' ruthless pursuit of absolute power in the holy water of environmental virtue? What? It's not political to talk about social programs. It's not political to talk about family. It's not political to talk about the environment and the policies and regulations around what corporations are allowed to use and not use. Except when you do it. What in the fuck are you talking about? Crops literally rot in the field when we crack down on immigration. Yeah, there's that. There's also, like, hey, you guys remember that hole in the ozone layer? And a lot of aerosol stuff was causing that, and the government banned its usage, and then the ozone layer hole got smaller. I'm pretty sure that's a thing that happened. This is just F the tree huggers with extra words. The age and the poor, is that why Congress raised the retirement age to 70? Yeah, that's why. Fuck me, dude. At its very heart, environmental extremism, whatever the fuck that is decidedly anti-human. We're in the environment. We are part of it. We need that thing. That's not anti-human. What the fuck? Every new sentence gives me new brain rot. Stewardship and conservation are supplanted by population control and economic regression. What environmental ideologies would ban the fuels that run almost all of the world's cars, planes, factories, farms, and electrical grids? No, it's not. What the fuck? What in the fuck? No. Abandoning confidence in human resilience and creativity and responding to the challenges of the future would raise impediments to the most meaningful human activities. Oh, stuff might be a little harder sometimes? Oh. Wow. Hey, remember that time when we like yesterday or the day before when we were watching Elon Musk and Trump talk about this kind of shit, and they were like, oh, they're gonna get rid of this thing. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can replace plastic with like hemp. And we went and looked it up, and you can just replace plastic with hemp. They would stand human affairs on their heads regarding human activity itself as fundamentally a threat to be sacrificed to the god of nature. What the fuck? What is this paragraph? This whole paragraph is just in the insane ramblings of a delusional old oil tycoon. That's what this is. Oh my god, it's almost like not relying on the automotive industry for your infrastructure of your city means that you don't have to rely on the automotive industry for the infrastructure of your city, meaning that it gets easier to not have a car as opposed to harder to not have a car. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? You build your city around making it easy to walk to places that you need to get to, and make public transit a easy, viable, and safe thing to be utilizing, and then you don't need cars as much anymore, which would make life easier for a lot of people, because then you don't have car payments, you have less accidents, there's less injuries, you have less carbon in the air, which means less overall damage in the extenuating circumstances, and you have less you have a more sociable society. You have more healthy people because they're walking more. You don't have to pay for like car maintenance and yada 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 yada. No. Okay. The same goals are the heart of elite support for economic globalization. For 30 years, American political, economic, and cultural leaders embraced and enriched communist China and its genocidal Communist Party while hollowing out America's institutional base. What may have started out with good intentions has now been made clear. Unfettered trade with China has been a catastrophe. It has made a handful of American corporations enormously profitable while twisting their business incentives away from the American people's needs. You mean Apple? I feel like this is talking to Apple. This seems like it's talking to Apple to me. Does that seem like Apple? Does that sound like Apple to you? For a generation, politicians of both parties promised that engagement with Beijing would grow our economy while injecting American values into China. The opposite has happened. American factories have closed, jobs have been outsourced, our manufacturing economy has been financialized. Period. And, all along, the corporations profiting failed to export our values of human rights and freedoms. Rather, they imported China's anti-American values to their C-suites. I don't know what that is, But also, the the riots in Hong Kong were a thing that happened. Yeah, Tesla's another good example. The riots in Hong Kong were a thing that happened, but also, just like in addition, if you're talking about okay, whatever, whatever. I can't even keep going. Even before the rise of big tech, Wall Street ignored China's serial theft of American intellectual property. Okay. It outright cheered the elimination of American manufacturing jobs. Learn code, they would gloat. These were just the price of progress. Engage. Well, you could, okay, but you would need to have the jobs moving into other industries. Like, you can't just say that if we don't trade with China and don't have, they're complaining that the left is saying we're going to make, like, their policies are going to make life more difficult for Americans, and that trading with China outsourced jobs, but the jobs that were outsourced are being, like, the slave labor that's being taken advantage of in China is for making Apple products. So if you got rid of the slave labor in China and stopped engaging with it and built factories in America, you are going to have to pay more for things like Apple products, which would ostensibly make things a little bit difficult for Americans for a period of time, unless you're going to fix the wage gap. So unless you're going to fix the inflation and the gap of that's going to happen, I agree that doing those things would be a good idea, but that would mean government has to be empowered to do so. Yes, tell me a joke. Please tell me your joke. I would appreciate your joke. Plastic dude has at the dollar store. Yeah. Gotta give our jobs to China for the economy while also declaring war on them, telling, yeah, this is like, yeah, that's a really good point. You're gonna go to war with China while China is currently producing all of your fucking tech. You're gonna have a really bad fucking time. You're gonna have a really fucking bad time, dude. Fix the wage and stop using tipping as an excuse for low wage. Freaking gross. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Currently, China and other tech outsource companies have the machines that make the machines that make the machines that make the product. We couldn't bring back manufacturing even if we wanted. Yeah, it would be a slow go. It would be it would be a process, and it would probably take at least 10 years to slowly move that kind of stuff over, and it would take a lot of incentives and a lot of breaking down of capitalism, like capitalist ideals. So it would be very, very, very difficult. Hi, Landon. I'm paused for a joke. You make the best hats. Best MAGA hats. Trump 2024 hats. Okay, I want to know if you've had period but, because it sounds unpleasant with how many times you've said it so far. Listen, do you really want to understand what period but is? If you spell it that way, I'll put it on the screen. Do you really want to know? I'm not describing that. Another day. We'll talk about that on that time of the month. Remind me. We can't be talking about women bodily functions while we're trying to get through fucking anti-woman shit. The maggots. Maggots. Is that how that's pronounced? Okay. Engagement was at every step Beijing's project, not Americans. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, dictated terms only to break them whenever it suited them. They stole our technology, spied on our people, and threatened our allies, all with trillions of dollars of wealth and military power financed by their access to our market. I'm going to write that one down as a reference. I'm just going to say CCP engagement. And I'm going to call that page 43. And we're going to put it on the wall. Because, like, I mean, a lot of the stuff that they talk about has, like, some kind of basis in some sort of reality, and so like some of it needs to just like has more nuance to it, and it's a little bit more complicated than that. You can't blame the government in its entirety for the behavior of companies, or even the behavior of all companies in their entirety, right? Some companies are doing more than others. Some companies are allowed to get away with slave labor. Some companies are allowed to get away with downsizing to the extreme and pretending they're making profits, right? So like there's a little bit more to it than that. We literally have men in Congress that literally think women can shut off their periods and reject sperm at will. Yeah, that's probably should not be a thing. Then came the rise of big tech, which is now less a contributor to the United States economy than it is a tool for China's government. Well, sure, and Russia's. Don't ignore Russia, come on. In exchange for cheap labor and regulatory special treatment from Beijing, America's largest technology firms funnel data about Americans to the CCP. They hand over sensitive intellectual property with military and intelligence applications to keep the money rolling in. They let Beijing censor Chinese users on their platform. They let the CCP... all right. They let Beijing censor Chinese users on their platform. They have to, if they're going to operate in China, they have to abide by China's laws. That's not, what the fuck? What? They let the CCP set their corporate policies about mobile apps, period, and they run interference for our rivals' political priorities in Washington. One side of big tech companies' business model is old-fashioned American competitiveness in a world-changing technological innovation. But increasingly, that side of these businesses is overshadowed by their role as operatives in the lucrative employ of America's most dangerous international enemy. Then you need to empower the FCC. You need to empower the FCC and give a budget to the FCC so that way they can go to Facebook, they can go to Twitter and say, you are not allowed to sell data. You're not even allowed to access the data. That's what you need to do then, and you need to go to Google and do that shit. If you want to understand the dangers posed by collaboration between big tech and the CCP, look no further than TikTok. Shut the fuck up! TikTok is like the least of your issues. The highly addictive video app used by 80 million Americans every month and overwhelmingly popular among teenage girls. I told you, everyone hates teenage girls. Teenage girls aren't allowed to like anything, ever. Is in effect a tool of Chinese espionage. The ties between TikTok and the Chinese government are not loose and they are not coincidental. Okay, TikTok, China. TikTok, China, espionage. Page 44. I pulled off 2 stickies. I'm going to need every sticky. I'm going to run out of stickies. The same can be observed of many U.S. colleges and universities. Oh, really? Including the ones that all your guys went to? Through the CCP's Confucius Institutes, Beijing has been just as successful at compromising and co-opting our higher education system as they have at compromising and co-opting corporate America. A casual reader might take the last few pages as surveying a broad array of challenges facing the American people and the next conservative presidents. Supranational policy-making, border security, globalization, engagement with China, manufacturing, big tech, and Beijing compromised colleges. Paragraph, but these really are not many issues but 2. one, that China is a totalitarian enemy of the United States, not a strategic partner or fair competitor, and two, that the American elites have betrayed the American people. The solution to all of the above problem is not to tinker with this or that government program to replace this or that bureaucrat, which is what you proposed at the beginning. These are problems not of technocratic efficiency, but of national sovereignty and constitutional governance. We solve them not by trimming and reshaping the leaves, but by ripping out the tree, roots, and branch. International organizations and agreements that erode our Constitution, rule of law, or popular sovereignty should not be reformed. They should be abandoned. Illegal immigration should be ended, not mitigated. That's not how that works. And borders sealed, not reprioritized. Economic engagement with China should be ended, not rethought. Our manufacturing and industrial base should be restored, not allowed to deteriorate further. Confucius Institutes, TikToks, and any other arm of Chinese propaganda and espionage should be outlawed, not merely monitored. Universities taking money from the CCP should lose their accreditation, charters, and eligibility for federal funds. The next conservative president should go beyond merely defending America's energy interests, but go on offensive, asserting them around the world. America's vast reserves of oil and natural gas are not an environmental problem. They are the lifeblood of economic growth. Oh my fucking God. America's dominance of the global energy market would be a good thing. You're never going to happen. For the world, and more importantly, for we the people. It's not just about jobs, even though unleashing domestic energy production would create millions of them. No, it wouldn't. Trump tried this. It doesn't work. It's not just about higher wages for workers who didn't go to college, though they would receive the raises they have missed out on for 2 generations. I'll believe it when I see it. Full spectrum strategic energy dominance would facilitate the reinvigoration of America's entire industrial and manufacturing sector as we detangle our economy from China. All right, hear me out. Hear me out. Even if you wanted these things to happen, you would have to expand government power and reduce the power of companies within the country in totality, right? And even if you wanted to do this in a way that was not like egregious and obnoxious and didn't make any fucking sense, America is not going to become a leading power of energy via its coal and mining and oil industry. It would do that through technological advancement. One of the times that America was most respected historically was when it was a leader in education and when it was a leader in technology and innovation. And to do that, you need to invest money in technology and you need to invest money in education, which has been chipped away at over and over and over and over and over again. If you want to stop talking about families being government, which is what they said at the beginning, then you need government to shut the fuck up about family planning and shut the fuck up about abortion and shut the fuck up about whether or not trans people are people. Get the fuck out. You don't want America government talking about that? Then give people the rights and fuck off. Right? It's really that simple. And then invest the money in education. Invest the money, globally, it would rebalance power away from dangerous regimes in Russia and the Middle East that we installed. It would build powerful alliances with fast-growing nations in Africa and provide us leverage to counter Chinese ambitions in South America and the Pacific. Locally, it would... They're saying it would as if they've actually proposed anything, and they haven't. It would drive billions of dollars of private investment to communities that have been hammered by globalization since the 1990s. And would clarify our intentions to Beijing that the next president can ensure that a large part of America's reindustrialization is in the production of the equipment we will need to dissuade foreign meddling with United States vital interests. Good luck. This is, I believe, the 4th pillar, and we are almost done the forward. I'm gonna be done for today. We've been live for nearly 4 hours. I don't think I can read this chunk fast enough to get through it within the next couple of minutes. If I could get through it by 4, I would, but I don't think I can. And then there's still the best effort. So we're on number 4. We're going to take a break here. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll keep at this. We're on page 45. This is linked. Yeah, no, yeah, an entire infrastructure overhaul. Yeah, absolutely. And that would be so much work and so much money, which is not necessarily even a bad idea. If you want to read this document yourself, it is linked below. I've also linked it in the chat. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll do some more of this. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be back at around 5 or 6, maybe an hour or 2, because it's going to take me a little while to, like, fix my brain, and then we'll be back with some art for tonight. So we'll be back live over on Twitch, and we're going to be doing some more art today and not talking about this, except we'll probably be talking about this. A YouTube channel with some great info that I can check later. Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to link it in the link it in the comment section. I'll let the link through in the back end. Thanks for joining me. Taverns on Saturday, if you guys are interested. I don't know if Dumbfuck Friday is happening this Friday. I have to double check with Manya. She's been not feeling so hot recently. So we'll see about that. I might just use Dumbfuck Friday to continue to get through this, but we made it 45 pages out of 920. So we'll see. We'll see how we do. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for, if you're a member, it's super duper cheap if you're interested. Hopefully Patreon will be back soon, but it's not quite active yet. I'm making sure my schedule is a little bit more settled. Good job, everybody whose names I read out at the beginning of this, you bunch of fucksticks. Have a good night for anybody who's done for today, and if you want to join us for art and chill times and a little bit more relaxed and less nonsense, or different type of nonsense, join us over on Twitch. The link is also down below, and if you do want to help me out, you can also send me things like this from Throne. Link as well down below, and if you want to send something to Puck, the Amazon wishlist is still active. If you have something you want me to put on there, you let me know for him, and I'll make sure to do that. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go do some art, and get some food, and maybe go to the art store. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate all the support, liking and sharing and subscribing and all that good shit. And I will see you same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.